Good afternoon, members. Reconvening Honolulu City Council. It's now 1:40 p.m. We're at the top of page 11 from the Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 203 be adopted and Bill 44 pass second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
Chair, this relates to false statements, specifically deterring persons from making or inciting the making of a false statement to a public servant.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have one person standing by remotely.
Okay, please proceed. Looks like June James. Good afternoon, June James. Please unmute yourself.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I hope you all had a good lunch break. Anyway, I really think that this bill is so vindictive and so spiteful. And you are going to fine people, you're going to put them in jail, you're going to force community service hours. And is this bill for monster homes? It seems to me that it seems to me that instead of trying to regulate and focus attention on a few bad apples, and I think that the city knows who the few bad apples are, it is casting a wide net across the board to punish a perceived problem that we have in Oahu. And this is just like defunding the police movement. Because of a few bad cops, not everybody, there was such a huge vindictive movement to defund the police. And of course, time has shown us that this was a bad policy and it was a bad idea. So I really think that the city should not keep getting more and more into that vindictive, threatening, punishment mode that it has actually become. Fines have gotten so high. And then here, we're talking really about words, right? It's saying that, let me see what it says, that it is, oh gosh, I can't find them. But anyway, it's just between conversations in print and this and that. And I have found through my years that there are also intercultural misunderstanding. And not a lot of people have eloquent English language. And, even between a husband and wife, there can be misunderstanding. So I'm just really concerned at the direction that the city is going, mainly to be so punitive, to be so vindictive, when I think that we should be focusing on the few bad apples. And I think it's possible for the city to do that. If I am correct, I think this is geared towards monster homes violators. And even with that, with the monster homes, whose problem is it? Because it's the city who have also given them the permit to build, right? So hopefully, if you know who the violators are, then make sure that the inspectors bird out them more carefully, and so on and so forth. I think that is the route to go. We should not be casting such a wide net to punish and to even throw people in jail. I think that's too much.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, I have one person signed up in person. Ms. Iwasa.
Please proceed, Ms. Iwasa.
Thank you, Chair. Council members, Natalie Wassa for the record. So I oppose this bill. It's just simply too broad, and it's been reported and discussed that this was trying to enforce the monster homes, people who are putting forth plans at DPP that are not what they actually plan on building. And I think a better route would be to enforce the code. And if somebody is going to put forth plans that say they're going to build a 3-bedroom home and they end up building a 9-bedroom home, they should be forced to go back and fix it so that it's a 3-bedroom home. They should have to build what they said they were going to build. And if they don't, they should tear it down. I think that's what people want. They don't care about a fine or going to jail or, you know, any other punishment that's likely seen as a slap on the hand because developers have a lot of money. That's just like very punitive to them. And so I ask you to scrap this bill because I have similar concerns to what Chun James said. I think that down the road that this could be misused and people who just make a mistake could have to defend themselves against this particular bill if it becomes law. So thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers for Bill 44?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. I firmly believe that more needs to be done to stop the development of massive homes in our communities, including stiffening the penalties for violators. I have requested additional information from the Office of Council Services and hope to provide suggested amendments to the bill when it comes back to committee. So I appreciate Councilmember Dos Santos Tam's introduction of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Reservations.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Reservations?
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 203 has been adopted and Bill 44 has passed second reading. From the Committee on Zoning, Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that Committee Report Number 208, Bill 6, Committee Draft 1 as amended, pass second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
It's relating to the professional self-certification. It's a temporary process whereby we're trying to alleviate the backlog of building permit applications by providing the building official and the authority to allow for alternative means to review building permit applications for compliance with all pertinent codes.
Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to withdraw my FD, but I will be discussing it in my comments, and we'll probably add it to committee as there's other things that have surfaced that I'd like to still add. Thank you.
Thank you. So ordered. Mr. Clerk, do we have testifiers? I
Mr.
believe
Chair.
Natalie Wassa is registered to testify.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Council members, Natalie Wassa for the record. I just have some comments. So I totally appreciate this intent to help speed up DPP. They've been behind with their permits for a long time and so excessively behind that it's ridiculous. But my question is, what kind of due diligence will the DPP have to do for these self-certified professionals? There are things that can be done, such as checking DCCA records for licensure, checking with the state to make sure that they're licensed for GET purposes. But, you know, that's not really spelled out here in the bill, and I understand that would probably be done in the rulemaking process. But sometimes when bills get passed and then it is put forth to go to rules, those types of concerns aren't always addressed in the rules. So you might want to consider adding something to the bill for that. The other concern I have is, or just a comment, I guess, would be that somebody contacted me about an allegation of an inspector who was not even on island and having his name used to certify certain I guess, fire extinguishers. So that person had already contacted other people. I'm not sure where to go with this, but I just want to put that out there because there are still problems within DPP that we need to be concerned about. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have Chun James standing by remotely.
Okay, please proceed.
Aloha. I am appreciative that there is more and more conversations of the plight of our property owners in trying to get prompt service and prompt permits from the DPP. And I totally understand that DPP has a very long and systemic problem and questionable history. So it's not something that can be done just overnight or fixed overnight. But again, I think that we need to put this in a very big picture and connect it all together. This is just kind of like part of a puzzle. The idea is that DPP cannot promptly and efficiently and effectively provide permits in a timely manner. And so because of that, third-party reviewers are allowed, right? But then, of course, we know that open up a new can of worms, because it seems like the records have shown that it is the third-party reviewers that are also causing and becoming part of the problem, because they have been also approving, so to speak, monster homes and this and that. So let's put it at that. And I think it's a good idea that we can depend on the trustworthiness and professionalism of our architects and our engineers and this and that, because after all, their professional license and their livelihood is on the line. So I think that's a good idea. But again, if DPP is going to accept third-party this licenses and license that, it is also increasing the cost of construction and cost of permits thing to the poor homeowner. They have already paid property taxes to get services, but now they have to pay an extra layer of it. And I also want to end with saying that, we, with the monster homes, again, I'm kind of going back, that part of the problem is that the city and the mayor has also contributed to all this commotion, because it used to be that homeowners were only allowed to build up to 50% of the land area. So what I'm saying is that this is a very interconnected problem, and we need to find solutions from different angles. But again, we should not have to keep allow or forcing homeowners to incur more and more costs, because DPP at this point cannot function effectively and efficiently. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers on Bill 6? Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee. Angela Melody Young testifying. I wish to comment. I neither support nor oppose this bill. So creating a self-certification process would address the regulatory burdens and of the housing development industry. And an example of this certification process that can kind of expedite things is something that I've talked about before, the emergency proclamation. And, because it's one of the wicked problems of the city, housing. Therefore, they declared it an emergency to try to expedite the processes so that developers can build and address the needs of our communities. And like this bill, Bill 6, the Emergency Housing Proclamation creates a mechanism in the law to expedite the certification process. In the Emergency Proclamation, it creates a group, Building Beyond Barriers, BBB, 24 members of the working group comprised of major housing, environmental protection, cultural impact, and natural resources agencies at the state and county levels. And it certifies projects and it also helps projects to move through the permitting and review process expeditiously, and also provides advice. And so the lead housing officer invites subject matter experts to attend the meetings for the certification process, and the representatives from the Building Beyond Barriers group will have the authority to raise compliance concerns regarding any project. And the lead housing officer takes appropriate corrective action, including decertification. And this is all to kind of address the certification process. So, therefore, I support it. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any further testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you very much. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola, followed by Kia Aina, followed by Dos Santos Town.
Thank you. So with reservations today, because I do want to add some things into the committee draft, but I also want to make sure that I feel good about what we passed out. Chair, you brought up a lot of good points about the similarities between third-party reviewers, and actually that we haven't codified any of that. So here we are codifying self-certification, but not all the parts, because some are going to go to admin roles. So to Ms. Iwasa's testimony, it's true. There isn't a lot that is actually written in the law for us to understand. And so that's kind of where my reservations lay, because as a third-party reviewer, we're requiring tests, we're requiring insurance. And I understand that the director is going to do that in the admin roles, but I also think that these things need to just be basic qualifications that we put into the law, because when we are allowing people to be a third-party reviewer, we're asking them to take tests on specific chapters of the ROH, to understand the LUO, to understand the housing code, because we're basically saying your competency is up to a level that we're going to allow for some of your own review in combination with some of the city's review. So even though we've had a decrease in the pre-screening process because of the bot, and the director said that significant amount of permits have gone down in that, we still have code review. And if you recall, when this bill first came up, HGEA opposed it because for code review, we need warm bodies. We really need more people, more personnel. So I did put forth a resolution to try to get more relief workers, and I do believe the director updated on us that for us. But the whole part of us sunsetting it was because we're trying to get enough workers to do it, because really that code review part is the part where you do need people to be accurate, to be able to go through it. So again, in favor of us trying to help the residential permitting problem, but not trying to cut corners in such a way where it's not equitable with the current tool that we have with third-party reviewers. I think it should be fair for both, because both tools seek to have the same objective. And so I'll be proposing that CD for the committee, and I do hope that DPP can update us at that time. No matter if they just updated us last month, we're still hoping for improvement every month in this issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you. Chair, I've received numerous emails about third-party certification, which I actually support with accountability, even after passage of the CD in the zoning committee. So before I make my other remarks, I'd like to clarify with Chair Say, for the record, whether the measure we are voting on today remove the authority for DPP to implement a third-party certification program.
May I respond, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please do.
I'd like to apologize to the members of the council. There is nothing in this measure that deals with third-party review. If you look at the title, what does it say? Relating to professional self-certification. It's a new program. It's a program that we have to have this ordinance in place in order for the administrative rules to occur. If you read pages 3, 4, and 5, it highlights what the qualifications are, the liability of the landowner, the liability of the architect and engineer, and also the liability of the county of Oahu. That is the message I wanted to get across today. There is no third-party review in this measure because we could not incorporate it based on the title of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Chair Say. So having said that, I just want to reiterate that I oppose self-certification except in narrow situations, and as such, I will be opposing this measure in its current draft. The director of DPP recommended starting a self-certification program with more focused and narrow projects, such as specific solar projects and some tenant improvements. These types of projects generally do not involve ground-disturbing activities, which increase risks for impacting cultural and historic sites. And therefore, I agree that if we are going to allow self-certification, these types of projects are more appropriate. From my reading of the CD1, I am not even sure self-certification could be used for these lower impact projects and instead would be allowed only for new construction or renovation of residential buildings as high as 75 feet or approximately 8 stories, or renovation of non-residential buildings regardless of height or number of units as long as there is no increase to floor area. Moreover, given the problems we are still trying to work out with third-party certification, which is distinct from self-certification, in that it involves a review of a building permit application by third parties, I cannot vote yes on a program that would self-certify for large-scale projects, including properties up to 75 feet that doesn't even involve review by third parties. So if this measure is heard again in zoning, I will consider introducing a committee draft, and I was wondering if I could call the DPP director up here to answer some questions.
Yes, please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, members of the council.
DPP Director, do you concur that a more prudent approach would be to move forward with a narrow focus? And if so, would you work with me to recommend suggested language changes when we go to the zoning committee? And maybe can you re-elaborate on what you stated earlier in the committee?
Sure, thank you, council member. So we would define eligible projects under the self-certification program. I think that we're looking at 3 different projects at this point, which are the Bill 7 projects as narrowly defined under ROH Chapter 32, and then commercial tenant improvements, and we can provide a definition of what that would mean. And lastly, actually, we don't think necessarily solar projects, but any projects that have a time limit in the approval of the permit. For example, the OTC 60, where DPP is required to make an approval or denial within a certain amount of time. And if that is the case, that we think that self-certification would be the best route, because then it requires the professional to sign off and have all the insurance, et cetera, to do the review without DPP.
Thank you. So you would work on recommended language. And what is your official position with regard to this current draft?
With regard to this current draft, I think that as far as the third-party review, I understand that it doesn't fit within the bill title, so we are solely focused on the self-certification part of it, and I think that's fine. I think that there are some good basic components as part of the program, and we can develop it more within the ordinance, and then during the administrative rule process, we can work on further details and process for the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dos Santos Town.
Thank you. I'll still be voting yes on this, but I do want to express some strong concerns, and this goes to Vice Chair Kia Aina's point about accountability. I understand that in the bill, there is a provision for penalties, and the penalty for a professional self-certifier who does something out of the scope of this is simply to be removed from the list of self-certifiers. And I think we've seen with the third-party review process how people have abused that. They've done third-party reviews on dozens of homes and finally get caught, and simply sidelining them doesn't seem to be a big enough deterrent to me. In fact, I'm sitting here right now with a stack of building permit applications from my district, and one of those third-party reviewers who had his third-party review approval suspended is listed on these plans as a plan maker. So he's just gone from being a third-party reviewer just to making plans and continuing on. He also has associates who are still third-party reviewers. So his business in the scheme just continues, and that really troubles me. One of the other third-party reviewers who was convicted in the DPP bribery scandal and sentenced to prison recently is still on the list of third-party reviewers. I'm sure the director will take him off at this point, but it goes to suggest to me that there is not enough accountability here, and I really want to make sure that the people who are qualified for this understand the depth of the responsibility here and aren't going to abuse this to enrich themselves. And I think that that's something really important that I'd like to see in a future iteration of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members?
Chair.
Councilmember Tipola.
Thank you. Just a question for the director, please, on the scope of projects. So I heard the three that you went through. Thank you, Director, for being here. Bill 7 projects, tenant improvements, and then those that have the time limit of 60. So I just wanted to bring in one more because I have a lot of homesteads in my district. There is a timeline by which when you get the lease that you have to commence building, that you have to actually start your project or else your lease is revoked within that year if you don't start movement on it. Would that be something for consideration that could be added to a list of imminency?
Potentially. I think we'd have to look closely at how that would work. But
I'll
sure.
send you over the verbiage and what the timelines they're up against. And, that's kind of why I withdrew my floor draft is because the more I read it, the more I thought there's still more that I don't think. And I think with that narrowing of the projects, we're getting closer, right, to just certain things that are on a timeline. Yes, let's expedite them, and we're not giving the green light for everything. But I think in addition to Councilmember Dos Santos Tam's comments in the hearing is, I'm still concerned that we're here clearing up and cleaning up a brand new self-certification. And really, the third-party review needs to be cleaned up in whole. And I would have liked to see that program cleaned up first and in parity with this so that we can compare the two, right? And that's what a lot of people said is, I've even had to make my own spreadsheet to compare the two so that we're doing the same thing, putting in the same safeguards, and then understanding what the differences are, which for this one would specifically be what types of codes they're reviewing, but then require all of the rest of the things like insurance and other things, but then also narrowing the scope of what projects will allow this for. So I look forward to talking more in committee about this, but I think you can hear, what I'm saying is I just think that it's a mess, as far as us proceeding with one thing, putting it into the law. The other thing is still with some really outdated admin rules.
Right. No, I agree. And as far as the third-party review rules, we are looking at them internally now. We do want to beef those up and have a higher standards and qualifications, et cetera. So that's ongoing. We don't have to wait for this ordinance or other in order to do that. So we're working on it currently.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion? Councilmember Kia-Aino.
Thank you. And since we are talking about third-party reviewers, I just wanted to have an open conversation with Chair Say with regard to the introduction of legislation regarding third-party reviewers. So, Chair Say, will we be getting a introduced bill soon on third-party review?
It's not on the calendar, sorry. Under Sunshine, we cannot talk about third-party reviewers. I'd like to limit the debate
I thought
related to professional self-certification.
Thank you. Since it was originally part and removed from it, I thought that it would still count, but that's okay. I just look forward to the bill being introduced because there's a lot of support from it. And with the right accountability mechanisms in it, I think it's going to help DPP. Thank you.
Members, we're on page 11. We have a lot of people waiting here to testify on page 23. So if we can, going forward, if you you can limit your debate to 2 minutes or less and speak only once on the bill, that would be very helpful. So any other discussion from anybody who has not spoken yet? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
No.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Reservations.
Councilmember Tupola?
No.
Councilmember Wire?
Excuse.
Oh, excuse. Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 6 ayes, 2 noes, 1 member is absent.
Thank you. CR 208 has been adopted and Bill 6 CD1 has passed second reading. It'll be going back to the zoning committee.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I move that Committee Report number 209 and Bill 18, Committee Draft 1 as amended, pass second reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
This is another measure in trying to support the Department of Planning and Permitting in the backlog of their permitting process. This is relating to the special assignment inspections.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers? I note that Shannon Olivado, Sean Oliveira, and Eric Kusunoki all registered to testify. Are
Yes.
any of these 3 people
Yes, they are
available?
all logged on.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Olivado. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kia Aina. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Shannon Olivado on behalf of Hawaiian Electric. We stand on our testimony in support of Bill 18 CD1 and are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Ms. Olivado? Seeing none, thank you. Sean Oliveira?
Mr. Chair, the testifier is not logged on.
Okay. How about Eric Kusunoki?
Hi, good afternoon. We are in support of this bill.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Mr. Kusunoki from Hawaiian Electric? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, is there anybody else wishing to testify on this matter?
Mr. Chair, we also have Ms. Chun James logged on.
Okay. June James, please proceed.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I think we are quarreling about semantics too. So when we talk about third party, it doesn't matter whether it's a third party reviewer or the professional self-certification or another one I can't remember, a special whatever. First party is DPP. Second party is the homeowner who is seeking the permit. Anybody beyond the 2 parties are considered third parties. I mean, however label names that we want to give them, right? So, and I'm thinking, at this point, if Governor Green, and I think he's having a emergency proclamation session right now on Facebook. If Governor Green gets what he wants, why would we even need DPP? I mean, let's just forget about a whole city county level, because that proclamation places all the approval power on what we call the lead housing officer, one person. So that is something to consider. And again, I understand and I appreciate everyone trying to improve and trying to work this out, because it's been a long time coming. But I'm also concerned that this bill particularly throws out the ordinary folks who are also suffering. It says here that the building permit application must not involve a single family or 2-family detached dwelling. That's a lot of us, right, who are having as much problems. In fact, I thought it was funny that Governor Ige, in his last spotlight talk, was saying that he was having a lot of trouble trying to get his permit approved with well, actually quite a small home renovation in his home. And we're thinking, okay, if a governor is having a hard time trying to get a timely permit approved by DPP, I mean, what chances do we small potatoes have? So I just want to leave it at that. But I think that this bill just really leans towards big developers and just throws out the small mom and pop single family or two family detached dwellings who have as much problems with DPP as anybody else. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Pardon?
We have no further testifiers.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you. So for Ms. James, I just wanted to clarify that this is the opposite of that. So there is a line that says that special assignment inspection is only for commercial projects. And what I'm proposing in Bill 18 is that residential projects be included. So really briefly, special assignment inspections will allow construction to begin on residential homes while permit applications are being processed. So you're still going to have to go through the permitting process, but you can begin and you have to complete the permitting process by the time you complete the project. Because the permit process is so lengthy, many projects become infeasible by the time the actual permit is improved due to economic conditions like increasing interest rates and inflation costs. Special assignment inspection for residential construction will streamline the permit process and allow for more residential construction to be completed on time. Director Puna reported that the backlog of 3,600 applicants waiting have dropped to about 70% with just 1,100. She said they also reduced the permit review process. There's still a huge holdup in code review, and the majority of permits are still residential. We must prioritize our local residents. Local families trying to build homes or repair them need a way to proceed, and this SAI mechanism is a way to help them. So far, we have received testimony from NAIOP, BIA, the Board of Realtors, Hawaiian Electric, Hawaiian Solar Energy Association, with other industry professionals and many individual residential builders. One such testimony came from a mother whose son was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer at the age of 49. He moved to Eva Beach to live with his mother so he could take appointments, chemo, and hospital stays. However, his 500 square foot home in Eva Beach was inadequate for a hospital bed. They drew up plans to accommodate his future needs. They sold the house in Wahiawa to have the building funds. They did all the drawings, surveys, inspections, certifications, compliances, and it still took them 3 years to get a permit. Unfortunately, her son passed away in December 2020, 3 months after they received their building permit. We can't allow this to keep happening and affecting our quality of life. And for those reasons, I support Bill 18. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Talba? Aye. Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 209 has been adopted and Bill 18, CD1 has passed second reading. From the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health, Councilmember Wire.
I move that Committee Report 224 be adopted and Resolution 23-162 pass second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Wire for the explanation.
Initiating amendments to the revised charter of the City and County of Honolulu 1973 amended 2017 edition as amended relating to the establishment of a climate resiliency fund.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have Ms. Iwasa signed up.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair, Council members. Natalie Wassa for the record. I oppose this bill as I have, I think, every creation of a special fund that has come up. Again, what you're doing is you're chipping away at our foundation of our real property taxes. That is the primary funding for a city. And this bill, this resolution, excuse me, states that it could support green infrastructure, renewable energy, et cetera, and would demonstrate the city's commitment to safeguarding residents' economy and the natural environment. Well, you already have the ability to demonstrate that when you do the annual budget. So in my opinion, this shouldn't be passed. The resolution also states that the creation of the fund would do this support without the necessity of raising property taxes. And I don't get that. I don't get how you can take 0.5% and commit it to a particular issue, and then if something else comes up, say, oh, by the way, we aren't going to raise real property taxes. I mean, in the real world, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, maybe if there's control in the other costs, but over time, I don't see that happening. So I just can't support this, and I ask you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay, members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I have a question for, I guess, it would be under BFS.
BFS. Good afternoon, Director Kawano. Thank you for staying.
Hi, Director Kawano. If such charter amendment were to get onto the ballot and then were to be adopted by the voters, would this percentage be available for use for stream maintenance and coastal erosion and all of that?
Yes, I think it falls under the specified use of the fund. So the answer is yes.
And I know that a lot of the concerns, not concerns, but things that we shored up now Director Albano at DFM to do is, like, we want to prioritize our streams. So, like, let's say we have this percentage and majority of our requests are for stream maintenance, and this percentage would go to that, but then would that mean that there's less money in the department to focus on stream maintenance? Would we decrease that from another department?
You could, that's possible, because if the voters vote and support the additional, the automatic set aside for this purpose, there'll be $8 million or so less to spend on other priorities of the administration and council. But I want to state that climate change is one of the administration's top priorities. So we support the resolution in principle, but to the point made earlier by Ms. Iwasa, we would prefer that we go through the annual budget process to allocate funding to climate change.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you, Director. A question. If this fund was established, would the fund be able to receive outside funding sources, like from non-profit organizations and the federal government?
Federal government, no, because we put all federal government's funding in a federal government fund, federal grants fund. So we keep track of that separately.
So even if the Climate Change Office competitively secured the funds, it has to go into another account? It
Yes.
won't be going into this fund. Can it receive private funding?
I don't think so. I think the fund would be set up specifically for
RPT.
For RPT, yeah, the allocation
Okay,
for RPT, like we have clean water, natural land set up.
Thank you for that clarification, because, there's so much funding out there for climate change. I don't think anyone disagrees with the merit of the establishment of the fund, so I'm glad that Chair Waters is actually putting it out for a vote by the voters. I do have concerns about using RPT, but I still understand why this is needed. Thank you.
Any further discussion, members? Councilmember Say.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Kawano, if this is going to be a charter amendment, which I agree, can we not call this fund a trust fund, whereby trust funds can acquire not federal but private foundation monies?
I I would prefer to run that by Corporation Council and then get back to all of you in writing.
Okay, that would
Yeah.
be fine. Thank you.
Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you. Director, thank you for your thoughts on this. I'm also concerned about us continually chipping away at the real property tax base, and we've had it in numerous discussions now today. In the realm of the priorities of the administration and setting aside money is, especially because special funds are only for those issues, right? In the future, because we just increased the Clean Water Natural Land Fund amount, and actually that's why we're having a lot of meetings with the Department of Land Management, is because they're trying to spend it down because they have a lot and we haven't identified all the projects yet that we're actually going to use it on. Would you recommend that this be set up differently or that it just continue on as a priority of the administration?
I would prefer the latter, that it continue as a priority of the administration and council. And we discuss and prioritize what we're going to spend every year as we go through the annual budget.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do believe that it's very important. We've seen, especially in the coastal areas of my district, we need a lot of it. We've accessed some federal funds, and to Councilmember Kiana's point, there's a lot of that, and we're constantly working with our congressional delegation to draw that down. But again, we couldn't use that in conjunction with this, and I just wonder at the end of the day how big of an impact it's going to be when some of the federal projects require us to match what they're doing, right? So it would depend on the amount that they're putting down, the amount we put down, and I think the flexibility of putting it into a budget would be a lot easier than saying, well, we only have 10 million, so we can't match your funds, but maybe another year when we have more. So yeah, for those reasons, definitely reservations are a no, but I'm interested because I do think that our Office of Climate and Sustainability, they're doing a great job. I love everything they're doing, but I am concerned that we continuously are getting at this and what's going to happen to our city services. So I guess in a future date, if it ever does happen, we're going to have to consider, right, whether or not this is going to affect our city services, which we really can't have any more effect upon it.
It could, and it also could affect bond rating as well, because as you automatically tie up real property tax revenue for specific purposes, and you have a situation where you have money set aside for needs that are not a must, it could cause problems with rating, with the bond rating. Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Say,
Yes,
followed by
Mr.
Councilmember Wire.
Mr. Chair, in defense of the sponsor of the measure, we are not addressing any increased ceiling. It's 0.5% of real property tax. If you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kawano, that's number one. Number two, at the way the ordinance is written, half of that goes to the clean water, and the other half goes to affordable housing. This measure cuts it further, meaning with the Climate Resiliency Fund, everybody gets 1/3 of the 0.5%. That's what I'm saying, if I stand corrected. Is that the way this ordinance is written?
Oh,
1/3, right now, we have 0.5% of real property tax goes into this fund. Within this fund, you split it up into 2 programs.
It establishes a 0.5% for a climate resiliency fund on top of the 0.5% for affordable housing and the 0.5% for clean water natural lands.
Respectfully, I have to agree with Chair Waters. The set aside is 1.5%.
1.5%.
With a third going to those 3 programs, including the new Climate Resiliency Fund, if voted and
That's
approved
what I'm
by
saying.
voters.
So we're not taking any money away. The fund is already there in place, the dollar amount.
It'll displace the money from the general fund.
But the ordinance is already on the books. And you have the 2 funds already in place.
Yes.
Housing fund.
One fund is for affordable housing.
And
that
clean
gets
water.
about $8 million a year. Another fund is for clean water natural lands. That's about $8 million a year. And I'm asking that another $8 million go towards climate change and resiliency. With sea level rise coming up, all of our roads are going to get inundated. Unless we start putting money away now to deal with climate change, at some point that bill is going to become due. And all I'm saying is, folks, we need to think about it and put the money away now, right?
Okay, no,
That's the whole argument. But ultimately, folks, if you don't want to put money in the bank for climate change, then let's not do it. But that's really the issue here. Do we want to put away money to, it's gonna happen, folks. Sea level rise, all of our roads, Kalakaua Avenue is gonna be underwater, right? What do we do about that? If we're not gonna start planning today, right, that bill is gonna come due at some point. And I get what the director is saying, and I understand what he's saying, and I get what Natalie Wasa is saying. But really, if we want to start being responsible and plan for the future, we got to come up with that money and start setting it aside now. That's just my thoughts and feelings, folks. But ultimately, that's up for you folks to decide, and possibly up for the voters to decide whether or not we want to set it aside. It's not a new tax. It's not an additional tax that we're going to be putting on the taxpayer, right? It's going to be coming from the existing pot of money.
That's what I'm saying. So the 8 million, 16 million total for the two funds that we have presently on the books.
Correct.
That's what you just stated. 8 million for housing, 8 million for clean water.
Correct.
Of that 16 million, I'm saying this particular way I read the ordinance, of the 16 million, 1/3 is going to go towards housing, 1/3 is going to go towards, nope. Am I reading it wrong?
Yeah, respectfully, the edit, the amendment adds 0.5%. So instead of 1%, it's going to be 1.5% or $24 million, with 1/3 going to each.
I stand corrected. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Cordero, followed by Councilmember Wire.
Before I move forward with my remarks, Chair, I would like to remind if members can direct their comments to the chair, wait to be called upon by the chair before speaking. Thank you. Okay, moving forward, I would like to state that, of course, I would like to see more clarification. I mean, there has been clarification in the resolution. I do have the same concerns about managing the budget. However, of course, I also appreciate when we do allow voters to have the opportunity to have that say, whether they vote no, whether they vote yes. And my reservations or concerns on how we do on this will be it won't just be my voice with the vote if we do put this on the ballot or if it goes through the charter and on the ballot. So I do have reservations, but I would like to at least have our communities talk about it and discuss it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Director, I'm curious, who would be able to access these funds if the fund was created?
Typically what happens is the fund is created. Typically council creates the fund, so it gets created. The fund has a specific purpose in terms of use. So typically the department that would be in charge or office, it could be managing director's office and CCSR, the CCSR office, but they would access the funds to spend it in accordance with the purpose set up for the funds. We still need to appropriate, though. We don't get away from appropriation. You still appropriate what you plan to spend annually. It's just that what happens is if you don't spend it, as one of the council members mentioned, the fund, instead of going back into the general fund, any leftover cash, if you will revolve into the next fiscal year. So if you don't spend it, it keeps growing.
I appreciate that. If I may, just because I appreciate the direction we're going, but just to clarify. So I'm curious if, for example, the funds created similar to the Affordable Housing Fund, would DFM be able to access those funds?
Affordable Housing Fund is?
This particular fund.
DFM?
Yeah, so if we created a resiliency fund, would DFM be able to access those funds?
It depends on who's in charge, right? There may be a way to achieve the purpose, do an OIC transfer, officer in charge transfer from the department that is set up as being in charge. I don't know if it's going to be DFM. It's,
I guess
yeah.
I appreciate Mahalo for the insight.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm wondering is because when you look at the charter language and it doesn't limit or identify an OIC, in my mind, it grants more flexibility because if you're creating a particular fund, it can go to the needs as they arise. And in my mind, I mean, what we're seeing today on Maui, right? It's sea level rise, but it's, you know, stream maintenance and the dramatic flooding, you know, the roads falling into the ocean. I'm just curious why, what the limitations are in that sense, because in my mind, what E&B does is resiliency, what HFD does, HPD, EMS, ocean safety, DFM. I mean, I feel like every department, given just the public safety implications we're going to be facing, would be able to access these funds. And so I'm curious, when you say the OIC, is that purely an internal mechanism or is that bound?
I'm not, we have Corporation Counsel
Yeah,
here, but I would think that the charter would determine who has primary control of the fund.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, the Charter Affordable Housing Fund is under DCS, even though, you know, perhaps other departments could expend the monies for you know, a allowable purpose. So I think when we cross that bridge, we can determine that. But there's probably ways to transfer the responsibility of the officer in charge.
Yeah, and I'm asking because now we're talking about like why this may or may not be a good idea because it limits the funds. And so that's why I think it's pertinent to answer that now, because if it actually grants greater flexibility for matters that, like you said at committee, we're already spending well beyond 0.5% on resiliency, right? Like when you look at all the stuff the city's gonna have to be doing. And so that's the only reason I'm asking, because I think DLM has used affordable housing funds too, right? Or am I mistaken?
Yep.
Yeah,
They
so
have.
similarly,
Yes.
like those funds move over to DCS or can move over to DLM. I don't know all the complexities. I don't know if it's a court thing or BFS, if it's just you do your BF 117 or like that's all above my head, but.
Well, I think to the point I was trying to make is we already have a budgeting process. Climate change, resiliency, sustainability is factored into all of our budget decisions. So the question I have is why do we have to automatically allocate real property taxes when we have a process in place already? That's the only point I was trying to make.
Okay, I appreciate that. And so I guess just mahalo for answering the questions, Director, just for discussion purposes. You know, based on just the reality we're facing, I think it's pertinent to create flexibility for all departments to be able to access funds as these situations we deal with sometimes unexpectedly arise, right? You know, we've seen the sinkholes open up, right? You know, the stream flooding, the stream maintenance needs. So just giving departments that flexibility, I think would be helpful with a fund that recognizes like this is a public safety issue. The types of situations like we're seeing today are going to continue to happen and get worse. And so that I do think, like, I understand what you're saying. You want as much flexibility as possible, but on the other side, I feel like it gives more flexibility because we're already doing this stuff. And so it puts it in a general pot that departments can just go get as they need it. But mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No. Okay, no further discussion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero,
Reservations.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam,
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina, Councilmember Okimoto,
Aye.
Councilmember Say, Councilmember Talba,
Reservations.
Councilmember Tupola,
Reservations.
Councilmember Wire,
Aye.
Chair Waters.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 224 has been adopted and Resolution 23-162 has passed second reading. Members, we're on page 13. Page 13 of 30. Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. I move that CR 223 be adopted and Bill 38 CD1 is amended past second reading
Second.
related to concessions.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered or unregistered testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have no registered testifiers.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to testify on Bill 38 CD1? Seeing none, any remote testifiers, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay, we're in discussion, members. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba? Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 223 has been adopted and Bill 38 CD1 has passed second reading. From the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health, Councilmember Wire.
Follow Chair, I move that Committee Report 222 be adopted and Bill 4 CD2 as amended pass third reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Wire for the explanation.
It's relating to the adoption of the Hawaii State Energy Code.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, one person signed up, Mr. Mark Glick. I'm not sure if he's remote or in person.
Mark Glick from Corporation Council?
State Energy Office.
State, oh, apologize. Aloha, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vice Chair, my name is Howard Wigg, Hawaii State Energy Office, on behalf of Mark Glick in strong support of this. This is a bill which, if adopted, will make Hawaii's or Honolulu's contribution to reducing the production of greenhouse gases. Plus, there are a few provisions here which actually reduce the cost of construction while reducing energy use. Number one, the model code requires for concrete or masonry homes and buildings that there be an exterior insulation. And we have eliminated or made that an option, and we've instituted no cost or low cost means of keeping the sun's heat out of the buildings. And we're just taking advantage of Hawaii's very, very mild climate. Number two, in the lighting category, if you always want or you must have daylighting in commercial buildings, and we have eliminated that and just said, reduce your energy use and you will be saving more money. We have increased the definition of efficient lamps and at no cost to the taxpayer or the construction. And we're saving energy at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, is there anybody else who'd like to testify on the energy code? Mr. Clerk, is there anybody remotely tuned in who wants to testify on the
Mr. Chair, we have none.
energy code? Okay, members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, followed by Say, then Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I want to commend Committee Chair Wire for his hard work on this. I know that this is a very difficult topic, and through his leadership, we're able to, bring together folks from all different angles, from the construction industry to folks, advocating for environmental concerns. And I think that this really provides a good path forward, and I just want to thank him for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, may I ask Mr. Wigg a question?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Mr.
Please.
Wigg? This is just a simple, practical, reasonable question. How come Skyline doesn't have any photovoltaic on their stations, which costs us so much money in electricity? Did you folks get involved in the discussion in the design and plans?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Well, that's where the city will be losing a lot of money as far as paying for the energy costs, correct?
I am not a subject matter expert on that.
Okay, I'm sorry, but you're with the State Office of Energy, thinking that you would help us say, yes, come on, plans and designs.
If you'd like me to look into that, I would be delighted to do it.
Well, I don't know, it's a little too late, but thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. Just wanted to extend my thanks to the committee members and to all the stakeholders that participated in the conversation. You know, as Councilmember Santos Tam mentioned, folks from all different, you know, backgrounds and areas of expertise really came together, spent time diving through the details, and really grateful for the time that they invested from, you know, the building industry, stakeholders, to CCSR, to our staff in our office. So just wanted to say mahalo. And do think that the code updates reflect the movement forward we need to have in terms of energy efficiency, but also contemplate the reality we're facing in terms of our housing crisis, and don't exacerbate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your hard work on this measure. Any other comments, members? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 222 has been adopted, and Bill 4, CD2, has passed third reading. Now to the top of page 15, first reading items. Vice Chair Kia Aina.
I move that the first reading items listed on page 15 of the agenda pass first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Vice Chair Kia Aina for the explanation.
Bill 45 relates to human resources. Bill 46 relates to flavored tobacco products.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any registered testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have Ms. Iwasa for Bill 45.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Waters, council members, Natalie Wassa for the record. I just have some comments on this. I don't know, some of you may know that vacant funded positions have been an issue between the council and the administration for at least the last 12 years, maybe 15 years. So I appreciate this. I ask you to consider, well, the bill actually requires the HR department to work with other city departments and determining what the status is of these various vacant positions and requires annual reporting. So I'm wondering whether, you know, if you folks have priorities in those departments that seem to have the most vacancies, I think that should be listed in here, or at least considered to be put in here as part of the intent behind this. And then should this bill be sunset after a certain period of time? I mean, I'm assuming that after all the departments are gone through, that the issue will be resolved one way or the other, and that this potentially would not be needed after that whole series is done. So just those comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else who'd like to testify on Bill 45? Bill 45. Seeing none. Bill 46, I think there's a number of registered testifiers, starting with Jamie Rojas. Is Jamie Rojas here? Or Jasmine Rios? Jasmine Rios? Joshua Ching? Hello, Mr. Ching. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for waiting patiently. Please proceed.
Aloha mai kako. To Chair Tommy Waters, Vice Chair Esther Kia Aina, and members of the Honolulu City Council. On behalf of the Coalition for Tobacco-Free Hawaii's Youth Council, we are in strong support of Bill 46. The Youth Council is a nationally recognized group of youth leaders fighting to envision and create a Hawaii centered on uplifting community public health beyond the reaches of big tobacco. Our council comprises over 80 middle, high school, and college students with representation from across all of Hawaii's counties. Our council has submitted written testimony, which I stand on and proudly affirm. But today, I want to share with all of you why I'm here on a Wednesday afternoon and why I got into this fight. I was a kindergartner at Kamehameha Schools when my dad first signed me up for baseball. It came off the heels of a failed attempt at soccer, coupled with the magnetic pull that sports leagues seem to have on Hawaii's parents. Most days after school, until I was in 6th grade, my popo, or my grandma, would pick me up from Kama'aina Kids and drive me out to town for practice and all the way back home to Waipahu when it was pau. She'd always show up with a ham or turkey sandwich tightly sealed in a Ziploc and a homemade smoothie that she'd take sips of on the drive over. I love my popo so much and would always look forward to those drives during the week. In those car rides, we talk about my school day, how much my sister and I reminded her of my dad and my uncle, or about her life in the good old days. One day, she decided to talk to me about her health. My goal is that I get to see you and all of my mo'opuna graduate high school before I pass away, she said as her eyes scanned the road. I was confused because she's pretty young and asked her what she meant. A lifetime of smoking cigarettes catches up to you, even after you quit, she explained. And with a voice no louder than a murmur, she uttered, "I have a hole in my heart." With those words, my heart sunk to my stomach. She explained how dangerous smoking was for cardiovascular health, about surgeries, heart muscle scarring, as I sat there fighting back tears. It was lost on me how anyone could create a product that would hurt my popo just to turn a quick profit. And to this day, I still feel the weight of her words. It's been 5 years since I joined the Youth Council, and in those years, I've met with legislators, community organizers to rally support for a ban on the sale of flavored tobacco products, which has become the primary catalyst to addict a new generation of smokers. But in that time, where effective and all-encompassing flavor bans have failed to pass at the state level, I've watched some of my closest friends get addicted to these products, often coping with personal struggles, anxiety, even body dysmorphia, through the temporary bliss of a few puffs from an e-cigarette. I fear that the story my grandma told me will become ones they share, or they'll join the over 21,000 Hawaii youth alive today who will die from a tobacco-related illness if no policy action is taken. I mean, this is my ohana. These are my friends. The industry, however, won't go down with a fight. Spending $26 million annually on marketing and hundreds of thousands on lobbying in Hawaii alone, the tobacco industry's relentless presence in daily life on the islands isn't an accident. It's intentional. It's the primary reason that the Honolulu City Council is presently prevented from regulating the sale of tobacco in this county, a consequence of a 2018 gut and replace law passed behind closed doors. Big Tobacco has not only attempted to assert control over our people, our vulnerabilities, our culture, but has actively come into our home and dictated the duties and functions of our own government. Moreover, as a Kanaka Maoli, the deeply troubling and colonial history of Native Hawaiian labor exploitation on tobacco plantations, bastardization of hula girls for cigarette advertisements, and now weaponization of local flavors for e-cigarettes, all at the hands of an industry profiting off of addiction, is deeply personal. Aloha Sun Juice, Lilikoi Lychee, Paso Guava Nectar, Luau Punch, Pog, and Pineapple Orange are just a few of the over 15,500 e-cigarette flavors, often designed specifically to entice local people, lining store shelves. Flavors, then, are the pinnacle of Big Tobacco's modern design for Hawaii, creating devices that specifically market to and addict the communities whose systemic vulnerabilities are a direct consequence of the history of exploitation they participate in. Banning the sale of all flavored tobacco products at the county level would work to end this deadly cycle of addiction, manipulation, and exploitation. Despite the fact that the state preempts the county's authority in regulating tobacco sales, passage of Bill 46 would be an unwavering expression of defiance against the financial influence of the tobacco industry and a signal to other elected officials the people of Honolulu are ready to fight the youth vaping epidemic now. We strongly urge that Bill 46 be passed and referred to the appropriate committee. It's time to put people over the profits of Big Tobacco. It's time to protect our keiki. Mahalo.
Thank you. Well said. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. I also have Pedro Haro.
Mr. Chair, the testifier is not logged on.
Is Peggy Merzwa? Aloha. Sorry if I didn't get your name correct.
You got it, Chair. Good afternoon, Peggy Merzwa with the Hawaii Public Health Institute. We stand in strong support and really thank the council for considering the measure. I believe that Josh has hit many of the points and told us a wonderful story. I do want to just point out that 79% of registered voters in Oahu support ending the sale of flavored tobacco, and we found that out through an independent ward research poll in December 2020. So thank you, and they thank you too for considering.
Thank you for your testimony. Next is Tina Yamaki, retail merchants.
Mr. Chair, the testifier is not logged on.
Okay. Lola Irvin, Department of Health.
Mr. Chair, the testifier is also not logged on.
Okay. Are there any other testifiers on this measure? Please come forward.
Aloha, Chair Waters, members of the council. My name's Don Weissman. I'm with American Heart Association. I've got written testimony, which I'll provide to your team, your staff after I'm done. But I just want to reiterate some of the previous comments that from a cardiovascular standpoint, e-cigarettes are not safer than cigarettes. They present many of the same health issues as traditional tobacco use. And I also want to point out that this is not just about e-cigarettes. This is about all tobacco products. And we want to make sure that this is a comprehensive bill to cover all tobacco products, because it doesn't just affect kids, it affects all of our smokers in our state, many of whom would like to quit but find it very difficult. The flavors are one of the things the industry uses to make it difficult to quit, especially menthol. It takes away the harshness. It takes away the detriments of smoking, makes it seem like it's okay, and makes it even flavorful and enticing to kids. But flavors are the trick that the tobacco industry uses to lure people into addiction and then keep them addicted. So this is a very important bill. We ask your support for it, and if you have any questions, I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier, members? Seeing none, thank you. Go ahead, Angela. Please proceed.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, for the record, on behalf of CARES, in strong support. And congrats to the Hawaii Public Health Institute and their work. They got an award at the award show for Hawaii children and youth. I think for their work in vapes, because nicotine poisoning is a very passionate subject matter to advocate for. So CARES also advocated for this subject matter at the state this season and drafted and proposed a bill and a resolution. House Bill 1492 and Senate Resolution 212. Smoking causes addiction, nicotine poisoning, a series of health risks and concerns. And CARES worked with Representative Rose and actually Senator Favela's office to work on a bill and the resolution. House Bill 1492 seeks to amend the Hawaii Revised Statute, Chapter 302A, the chapter relating to DOE public schools and the education system and smoking at schools. The law needed an upgrade in language. The law currently says, and I'll read it verbatim, all public schools within the state from kindergarten through grade 12 shall prohibit the use of tobacco at public schools at public school functions. To simplify, the law is saying smoking tobacco is prohibited at schools and at school functions. So our proposal was to upgrade the word tobacco to tobacco products for further clarification about what a vape is. One word determines the statutory discretion of whether or not the law was offended. The FDA sets the standard of defining vapes. It is a tobacco product and not tobacco. Because it is a product derived of nicotine, the chemical in the tobacco plant, which causes the addiction. Because vapes is an evolved version of tobacco, it is a tobacco product, and technically not tobacco for statutory purposes. And so this debate and discussion about vape legislation, it's about tax parity and technical changes to the law, but at the core of this issue is a grave concern about health. In its most simplified form, this discussion is about getting students to stop smoking vapes because smoking is bad for children and nicotine poisoning is bad for you. And the children are passionate about it.
Can you wrap up, please?
Okay, in conclusion, this was one of the priorities that the Hawaii Children and Youth Summit supported, and that is the summit that proposes to the legislature in regards to the children and their priorities. So therefore, we really support this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Senator Favela, welcome.
Thank you, Angela. Always doing a good job. 100% for this bill. We need to do more in legislation. I'm going to learn a lot from Mr. Calvin Say, who always say whatever Calvin Say says. Anyway, going forward, this thing right here, we just got to not only tackle the flavored tobacco products, but just in general of the commercials. I don't know how we can regulate on internet, but it's all over the place. You know, they said that they can't advertise on TV, but they're all over the internet. They entice the kids, and they are enticing the kids. You look at the commercials. It's not made for kids, made for adults, kids. Who's gonna look at little cartoon characters running around with on flavored tobacco, on orange, or on pineapple? No adults here. It's for the kids. And they should be sued, or they should be going in jail for having stuff like that, promoting and pushing our kids. I was always against it because of what happened to me at my school at Eva Mackay Middle. I'm not going to say what grade the students was. There was vaping at Eva Beach McDonald's at the Laulani, and they both of them went into cardiac arrest, and they got to go to Queens Hospital. They didn't know how much nicotine was in the vape, and they overdosed on nicotine. So people think it's a joke. It's not a joke. It's very serious, and that's why we need to do more. Thank you, guys. Hopefully we can do more at the Ledge this year, working with Angela and Senator Rose, to get more things done that we can make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else. Thank you again. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Senator. So we actually do need your help. The counties are prohibited from regulating this, and it's prohibited by the legislature. So we need your help in allowing the counties to do this, because once you folks change the law, this law, assuming we pass it, comes into effect. So thank you in advance. I do see a few hands up for remote testifiers. Mr. Clerk.
Aloha Council. My name is Jasmine. I'm commenting as a supporter to our small business owners in Honolulu. I'm here to comment on Bill 46 prohibiting the use of flavored tobacco products. This motion, if passed, will have a drastic effect on community business. A flavor ban is unnecessary and unhelpful, and we strongly urge Council to hold on moving forward. As an adult smoker, I use flavor vapes to reduce my use of cigarettes. And by passing a ban like this, you're not helping me get off of tobacco. I respect the need to protect the youth, but retailers do not sell tobacco products to anyone underage because it is already illegal to sell to anyone under the age of 21. The city needs to enforce current regulations and not add unnecessary and burdensome ordinance in an already highly regulated industry. I agree there should be some action on the flavored disposable vapes, and enforcement should focus on that. Bans like this shift sales from law-abiding retailers in a regulated environment and increase black market activity, which is more dangerous to our youth now more than ever. Local businesses are backbones of every community and are the ones that are going to be financially affected in this ordinance. Please do not move forward with Bill 46. I appreciate the council's consideration and hope that facts over emotions will prevail in stopping the flavor ban. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, I see another hand up. Is that Jamie Rios?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. My name is Jaime Rojas with the National Association of Tobacco Outlets and representing the retailers and convenience store members of the City of Honolulu. Our association retailers support traditional tobacco retail licensing, but further restrictions are unnecessary because Honolulu retailers have a 97 passing success rate in retail tobacco compliance checks conducted in the past 3 years by the FDA and located on its website in local sting operations. Retailers are doing their jobs. Why implement new ordinances if we can't even enforce current regulations? We need to use tobacco tax dollars to fund local enforcement. The City Council should focus to address other issues like stopping tobacco online sales to youth, penalizing individual adults who give or sell tobacco products to youth, and improving education school resources regarding youth vaping and school curriculum. Our Honolulu retail members are doing their part to keeping tobacco products out of the hands of persons under 21 years of age. It is already illegal to sell to anyone under the age of 21 across the nation and in Honolulu. Compliance, code enforcement, and education work. Youth usage of traditional combustible cigarettes are an all-time low of under 3%. In 2018, as we know, the Hawaii legislature clearly expressed its intent to regulate these products uniformly and exclusively. Banning the sale of flavored versions of these products is an action outside the Honolulu City Council's authority. For these reasons, we ask that Bill 46 be placed on hold on this agenda. We thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, I see someone else with their hand up.
Yes, we have June James and then two other in-person testifiers.
Okay, please proceed.
Hey, aloha. I just wanted to make a quick comment. You know, with all due respect to the business industry, we understand that it is business, but I honestly and sincerely think that we must put the public health, we must put our most vulnerable population, our younger population, from this type of a very slick, very sophisticated and money-powered enterprises such as vaping. It's as simple as that. I think at the bottom line is, do we want to be engaged in exploitative commercialism, or do we really want to put the health and the welfare of our most vulnerable population? I just do not think that it's a honest and moral thing to make money out of something that is going to hurt a lot of the population. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify? Nali Wasa, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Council members, Natalie Wassa for the record. I oppose this, and it's not because I'm not concerned about the health of people, and personally I hate the smell of vape, but you have no authority to make this ban. The state has been clear, so I understand your position, but I just oppose it because you're not, it's not going to do anything unless the state changes their law. So thank you for allowing me to make these comments.
Thank you. We have one other in-person testifier. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and Council members. Lola Irvin got pulled to another meeting, so Jill Tamasher on behalf of Dr. Fink at the Hawaii State Department of Health. Thank you so much for considering this measure. It's very important. It's the 9th year that it's been taken up at the state level, but not passed. And so we appreciate the county's consideration of this measure. We know that 85% of youth who say they use e-cigarettes say that they started because of flavors. We also know that menthol is a really huge problem. It disproportionately affects certain communities. We know our Native Hawaiian community in particular has a really high use of menthol. Menthol also makes it, we know the tobacco industry knows that menthol is used to make e-cigarettes, tobacco products more palatable, and it's also more addictive. So we stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for the Department of Health? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, anybody else wishing to testify?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, are there any objections or reservations to any of the matters? Noting no objections or reservations, the first reading items on page 15 of the agenda have passed first reading. Now to the top of page 16. Thank you. From the Committee on Public Safety, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I move the Committee Report 194 and Resolution 23-165 be adopted.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Okimoto for the explanation.
Relating to the construction of a sanitary sewerage system in the Eva District to be known and hereafter designated as Eva Beach Sewers, Section 4, in accordance with the Improvement by Assessment Ordinance.
Thank you very much. I note that we have one registered in-person testifier, Senator Favela.
Okay. Sorry, I took off my glasses too early. You never stop my timer. Anyway. Well, you know, I smell something that is not too good, and it's not coming from Eva Beach, Eva Estates. I oppose this resolution. I've been working on this for over 30 years when they tried to do this back when I was neighborhood board chair. We're against it then and we're against it now. The Clean Water Act shows there is no risk to our drinking water. And I want to say, if they're worried about anything, ENV should worry about the leakage that Kaikina had left that is continued from the sewer treatment plant into Haubush. How I know that the sewage not damaging our marine life? Because the University of Hawaii tests the outfall from the outfall to Haubush to Pearl Harbor. And guess what the content is? 0. Only where the area that was leaking till now. So Eva Estates is more caused by Iroquois Point across that area. So I want somebody to take my DNA and 1 week later see if it's in the ocean. You guys are trying to overstep something that you guys are not really, you guys are going to step in something. It's going to be number 2. First of all, my community is aging. Okay, that's the reason why they didn't do it 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Because even the access to their cesspool to tie it in, if you want to tie it in to the sewer system, some of their cesspools are in the back of their house. It's going to be costly to them, costly to the city, and it's not necessary. So if somebody can give me some scientific data that the cesspool in my auntie's house there is leaking into the ocean and hurting our marine life, I want to see that data. And that's 30 years ago. Guess what, Chair? Haven't seen it yet. So we're going to spend $50 million of taxpayers' money for something that is not endangering nobody. I say leave it alone, or we're going to have a lot more people at this city council meeting if this keeps going forward. I don't appreciate when I leave calls for some certain council people to call me when there's anything in my district, and I'm saying this again on record, anything in my district. I represent my whole district. Previous people, like was my position, maybe they didn't care. But I care and love my community. And they was at the neighborhood board in hundreds against this. To Quadapec sneak this now, and nobody in my community really knows about it, it really upsets me. And I tell you right now, if you guys move with this going forward, I guarantee you I'm gonna get hundreds of people right in front of City Hall. And certain people that made this thing, they're gonna have their names on the signs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Any questions for the testifier? Councilmember Say.
So Senator Favalo?
Yes, sir.
I'm just following Act 125 of 2017, which is the session laws of Hawaii. It's the state legislature that adopted that measure, and maybe you had your objections, but we have to follow the law of the state. And they mandated the city and county of Honolulu that we get these particular private homeowners on the Eva plantations to replace their cesspools with a tie-in to the sewage treatment plant, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair, Honolulu. I can understand, because now we are going to be asking the administration to designate that particular area as an improvement district. And there will be assessments. And I hope that the department, if they're out there, I hope you do your outreach because, you know, I think what the senator is saying, if it is true, it's going to cost the taxpayers of Oahu another $50 million. And you're correct. $50 million on top of the assessments of all the private landowners. I did ask the question, if it can't be cesspools, why not septic tanks? But our department stated for the record that they would like to go and connect it with the sewage treatment plant at Honolulu, and the city will provide the main line on the road, and then the laterals will be paid for by the private landowners. And I believe the private landowners would have to dig those cesspools out of their particular properties. So, but I'm just complying with what the state law is, Mr. Chair. If the state law is not in existence that we have to comply by 2050, I don't care. I really don't care. Because I think we've never gone out to the residents to see, are they in support of this particular legislation? And for Senator Favela, if you feel that way, introduce a bill to repeal Act 125.
And that's what I'm doing. So just to give you an update, 2017 is when they brought up this rubbish to our community. And that's when I was the chair, and that's when the community came out strong. What I'm saying is 2017, the bill passed for these cesspools. What is the date today? 23. How many years was that? So now you think the people in Ever Beach that when put in the septic tanks, because the Department of Health and the city mandated them, if they was going to build another room or another house or another restroom, you know, in their house extension, they had to put in septic tanks. Those septic tanks wasn't cheap. So are you guys going to exempt that? Ever Beach Road. They built all those monster houses that was allowed by permanent permitting from the city. They got septic tanks. Are they going to convert? There's a lot of equations, and I understand the state did them. I wasn't there, because if I was, I would have voted no, and my voice would have been heard loudly. That is very inconsiderate if they cannot prove the fact that that is happening in the community. If we really are endangering the sea level, the sea life in the ocean, if you guys so worried about the sea ocean, get rid of the cats. They're making urine all over the place and killing our sea life anyway. They're the ones actually was proven that they're killing our sea life. But what we do? House them, trap them, kiss them, love them. Yeah, it's all that good stuff. Put them in a nice, beautiful new place in Ever Beach. But anyway, Chair, thank you guys for your time. But you're right, Councilman Say. I will have my say. Appreciate it. God bless you, but I love you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify on this matter? Please proceed.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying about the new sanitary systems. So it's going to cost $1 million for the treatment plant, and people don't want to pay that. This was some of the things that I was told while researching about this subject matter. And secondary treatment is mandated by the EPA, but the community doesn't have dirty water. And the cesspool as is not bothering anybody. So, you know, perhaps a solution can be that DOH can provide kits to get more water quality samples. It can be a solution. And if the water is clean, then there is no need for a new sanitary system. So at the state, the House Concurrent Resolution 94 about the Pokai Bay cleanup talked about managing these resources, and it really requires the state, city, and community organizations and volunteers to work together.
Please conclude your remarks.
Oh, okay. So I'm in support of it. Thank you. I mean, I'm not in support. I just wish to comment. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers on this matter?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
I do note the presence of Wesley Yokoyama, Division Chief, Wastewater Engineering and Construction, Members, if you have any questions, let's start with Councilmember Cordero, then Councilmember Tolba.
Hi, how are you doing? Good to see you. I just wanted to ask clarification on the resolution because this resolution doesn't actually enact any action. Does this resolution request further investigation and data forming and all of that? And does that include outreach? Press the on-off button.
Okay, thank you. So this is the first of many actions that we're going to interact with City Council. So this is a resolution of intent, and it starts a 3 or 4 year process in order to get sewers to the last area that's unsewered in Eva Beach. So it's just the start of the process. The next step is that we need to provide you a report that shows all of the planning that we've done along with the design. And that goes to the PIT committee first for review and scrutiny, and then for City Council, the whole council to vote on. So there is a process, and we've just started that process.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, so, and is there a timeline for such report and investigation to be PAL by? I mean, yeah.
No, there's no timeline, but we need to keep this thing moving because, and I wish I had our presentation that we gave to the committee, but it's a many-step process. I mean, I think it's like maybe like 30 steps that we need to go through in order to get the ID completed.
Okay, so with this resolution, what can be expected? What is the initial action that can be expected?
We will submit that report that has the planning study as well as the design, and that's going to be submitted officially to council for review. And we're going to be on committee. We're going to go to the PIT committee and make a presentation, and there'll be discussion there, and it'll be referred to the whole council if it's adequate.
And will this resolution that then prompts the investigation and then the report to the council include outreach and discussions with stakeholders and neighbors?
That's part of our design process. So we will, do outreach, and we promised that when we did the committee presentation also.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Talbot.
Councilmember Cordero asked my question. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Councilmember Wire, followed by Dos Santos Town.
Mahalo, Chair, just quickly. Just wanted to clarify, so in standard practice, if someone already has septic or has already converted, are they typically allowed to maintain that, or is the standard policy once sewer goes in, everyone has to do the connection?
I believe that DOH, regulates cesspools. So I think the state law is by 2050, all cesspools need to be taken out.
Yeah.
So if septic systems are allowed by DOH and people have upgraded to that, I think that's a solution, to the cesspool deadline. We're going to provide sewer connection. And it's really up to the landowners when they do that connection, because they have till 2050. But we feel, it's our obligation to provide the infrastructure to allow residents to meet state law.
Okay, mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Dos Santos Town.
Thank you. I want to dig in a little bit more on that question because Senator Favela brought this up in his testimony to us. So specifically, those people in this improvement district who knew that that the cesspool ban is coming, upgraded to septic, are they going to have to contribute to the sewer improvement for the entire district, even if they've already made a huge investment in septic for their property?
No, I don't believe so. If DOH allowed them to upgrade to septic, they will not be part of the sewer system. They'll be not part of the city system. But I think most of our initial look, I don't believe there's too many septic systems out there. There's largely cesspools.
If we could get a little bit more information on that, I think that would be helpful. I know there's other areas that where many people are converting from cesspool to septic, and I think it would help those people plan ahead if we had some more information. Thank you.
Members, Councilmember Tupolo.
Thank you. Mr. Yokoyama, so good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah, your expertise is always very welcome here. I guess one question, just because I know some of the guys in my district are concerned about this. I believe shortly after the law was passed, the city passed the exemption to allow for 30 years of not paying wastewater fees for those who convert from cesspools to septic tanks. And this particular section would not apply.
Yes.
So I guess, what the senator is saying and what I'm feeling in my heart is that I always move with my community and my neighborhood boards. And I don't see enough people here from EVA in order for me to know that those people who will be affected understood that. And I appreciate the outreach that's going to happen. However, we do know that the outreach that happens always does have a little small gap area. And you guys never have to face the backlash. We have to face the backlash, yeah? Because the community say, oh, you never told me, I never heard about this. So it's always good to partner. It's always good to partner, work with the department and say, hey, we'll host a town hall, we'll get the word out, we'll try to bring the community together to bring in all the small pieces of an understanding. From the day the law was changed, to the amount of exemption the city is offering, to what's the plan moving forward. And I would much rather move together with the community, seeing as though we have till 2050. And I'm not saying we wait another 5 years or anything like that. But unfortunately, this wasn't heard in Pitts, which is the committee I chair. And it wasn't a week that I was actually here on Island. And so I guess I'm just respectfully asking, I know the department probably asked the chair to introduce this, but to just allow us to move with our community. When I say us, I just mean Councilmember Tolba and I, because we are the ones that have to face the people of EVA. And we want to stand jointly with our other elected officials and with our neighborhood boards and saying, hey, we did as much outreach as we could, and this is a good path moving forward. So I hope that makes sense.
It does, and actually we usually do give the area council member and the committee chair, whoever's handling our, our reso, just a courtesy presentation. But I think, especially Councilmember Tolba, apologies, I think you were off island, and we weren't able to schedule that. So in the future, we will do that. And, I think, I'm not positive, I kind of glanced at it, but I think there's some testimony, written testimony from the EVA Neighborhood Board. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm not sure either. I can look that up. But yeah, seeing as though he and I didn't get that presentation, both of us were kind of blindsided by this. So, I'm respectfully asking to defer so that we can get on the same page with you guys, make sure that the community, the neighborhood board is aware of this. We don't need to be walking into a neighborhood board and getting blown up for something that we really didn't have any information on and that we actually didn't even discuss in committee or invite the community to come and discuss with us. Again, I just think it's going to be good for the department. I love ENV. I'm just going to be honest. ENV is awesome. Every time I call, they help me with everything I need. So I just kind of want to keep moving in lockstep with you guys because there's nothing that's wastewater or trash related that you guys don't help our community with. And to be honest, we host almost all of the facilities within that west side. So that's why we need to work well together. And I don't want anyone to have any hard feelings towards the department for something that maybe they just don't have all the pieces yet, right? Because even that small piece of the exemption, some people know about it, a lot of people don't. So maybe that would alleviate it, but I don't know. I think we should openly share it a little bit more. Your thoughts?
Yes, totally agree and accept that offer, to team with you and Councilmember Tolba to get out to the community.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up, reading the resolution, rereading the resolution, obviously this is an administration priority, right? I introduced the bill by request of the administration. This is something the administration wants to do, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and the city council did not initiate this, although it's odd. The city council asks the mayor to direct the Director of Environmental Services to investigate and report preliminary data concerning the necessity and feasibility of this. Why do you ask us to ask you to do something?
I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and ask whoever drafted this.
Okay. Thank you very much. Look forward to more discussions on this in committee. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to extend a mahalo. I know that there's a lot of discussion, but I do want to give credit because in the committee that we did have, you and the department director, Babcock, were all here, and you had a team, and you did actually give a lot of information that day. So it's unfortunate that some of the members weren't able to hear it, but I didn't want to disregard the efforts that you guys have put in thus far to inform us of what the plans are based on the mandate that is given to us from the state. So I just want to put that out there. I do appreciate you coming to the Public Safety Committee and giving the slideshow and the presentation that you did that day. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, just to further qualify, that state law requires the city to comply with the conversion from cesspool to either hooking up to county sewer system or septic tank, right?
Well, it requires really the landowners to do that. The city is trying to provide where it can, because some places you can't gravity sewer. So we're trying to provide the infrastructure where we can. Some places like the North Shore, it's been recommended that community or individual wastewater treatment systems be put in lieu of gravity sewers. So, it depends on the area, and that's why the feasibility needs to get done.
Okay, thank you. Any follow-up questions, members?
Chair, at the
Councilmember Topa.
appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion.
Sure. Any further follow-up questions, members? Councilmember Singh?
Yeah. Mr. Yokoyama, thank you very much. I was there at the meeting, and I really appreciated the presentation by your staff and yourself. And, I think Director Babcock was very candid in his responses. But as a council member, I'm a little worried as far as the department because of the priorities of where we're headed for. And for me personally, may I state for the record that I was concerned about the second phase of Sand Island Treatment Plant, the impact that it will cost the residents of Oahu. And I just wanted to just share that with you because on top of the Sand Island Treatment Plant, you've got Honolulu, you've got the Kailua, etc. But more importantly, how do we get the message out to the state legislature to at least assist the counties? It's a state mandate. That's what I was complaining all day today already. More and more mandates from the state are being put on the city, and we are being held responsible for it. That's why I asked Senator Favela, if you don't like it, you just go back to the legislature to repeal it, but I don't think he's going to get the votes. Department of Health is not going to support the repeal. And if I can recall, I'm very, very sorry that I should have earmarked some of that $50 million when we started off on the replacement of cesspools, Mr. Chair. Because a lot of people who use the cesspools were the super rich that had the money on the coastal lines of Oahu. Think about it, because that's how they got the tax credit later on. You replace your cesspool with the septic, and then you get the credit. So you put the money up front, and you get it back later. Most of us local residents, we cannot even put the money up front. And that's the concern I have, whereby the outreach will be very important as far as how we approach it, as far as the optics. And in closing, I can see the concerns that will be brought up by the residents because, oh, Mr. Yokoyama, yeah, I put in these, tie in with your main line, the lateral that's coming from my property. Oh, but now you're charging me for my sewer fee, the one that we pay more than our water fee. That's the concern I have. How do we address it properly and honestly and sincerely? Today's discussion is tremendous, Mr. Chair, about all the other measures. And now I think the members are beginning to maybe understand that the choice that we make is going to be so important in the out years also. And I just close by saying thank you very much. Keep up the great work. I see your staff all here that I did say thank you very much for their presentation also. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, given Councilmember Say's comments, I just wanted to echo that because I noticed, I think it's in good faith, but you talk to some people at the state and they seem to think that it's purely a county responsibility. And I think even the DOH working group recognized that it's a, county, state, federal collaboration that's going to solve this cesspool issue. Since we have Senator Favela here, I don't know if there's potential to re-examine PACER, because as we talked about in committee, the residential part was pulled out of that. But I think that would have been a really great pathway for our community with, I think, some 2,000 cesspools needing to convert. So I don't know if that's an area that the city can push on over at the legislature with allies, but and I know before we've talked about whether there could be some type of utility model. I don't know if you have any insight on that. Like, is there potential for folks that don't have capacity or the ability to connect to sewer? Is there an opportunity for like a utility type septic model where the city does the maintenance and folks pay like a fee, just like the sewer fee, but it goes into that part of the utility?
I know Director Babcock is looking at that. We had some initial discussions on that. And of course, that has to be worked out, right? There's a structure to it and who owns what and who maintains what. So, but Director Babcock is looking at that.
Appreciate that, Lalo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Tolbo.
Thank you, Chair. Really do appreciate you guys coming back to do the presentation for myself and Councilmember Tupola. I think I too move in this in the voice of our community. So I would like to see, maybe we put out a measure before and get area representatives involved in the process and maybe getting involved, getting this in front of the neighborhood board before we move forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. I want to make a motion to defer this resolution until we're able to meet with the community. I think I've respectfully asked Mr. Yokoyama if we could work together on this. And I also don't want to go against the area senator. I want us to work together because that's when we're really successful in the community. We want to make sure that this is something that the residents understand that the city is trying to help with and not be punitive about. And I don't know if that message was clear, but we want to make it clear. So I move to defer this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
Would you like to defer or send it back to committee?
Let's send it back to committee. Thank you.
So
Second.
motion to send back to committee. Second. Okay, we're in discussion. Well, Mr. Clerk, do we have to take public testimony on the motion to defer or send back to committee? No? Okay. Discussion. Councilmember Wire.
Mahalo, Chair. I just wanted to check if committee chair had any preference on that. If no preference, I'll defer, but.
No preference.
Mahalo.
Okay. Councilmember Say.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to incorporate your statement that it shouldn't be, is it us now directing it to the director, or is it, the mayor telling the director, this is what we should be doing during the next 6 to 8 months? In regards to whereas the council by resolution shall request, not that, but prepare a preliminary report to the council, prepare and finish all necessary preliminary surveys, maps, plans. That's what I think they should be doing at this point in time rather than deferring the rest.
I agree. Any further discussion? Seeing none, any objections or reservations for the motion to direct back to committee? Seeing none, so ordered. Okay. We're at the bottom of page 16, members. From the Committee on Budget, Council Member Cordero.
I move that Committee Report 200 and Resolution 23166, CD1 as amended, be adopted. And this resolution approves a request to compromise certain claims concerning the taxation of real property.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Okay, members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 200 and Resolution 23-166 CD1 has been adopted. Now to the top of page 17, Councilmember Cordero.
I move that committee report 201 and resolution 23-169 be adopted, and this resolution authorizes the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services to issue and sell not to exceed $225 million of principal amount of wastewater system revenue bonds, Senior Series 2023, and related matters.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 201 and Resolution 23-169 has been adopted. Councilmember Cordero.
I move that committee report 202 and resolution 23-175 be adopted. This is a transfer of funds within the Department of Community Services.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Okay. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 202 and Resolution 23-175 has been adopted. Now to the top of page 18, from the Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 180 be adopted and Resolution 23-120 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
Chair, this provides for the acquisition of easements for public use for the rehabilitation of Numana Road Bridge over Kalihi Stream, bridge number 129, located at Lailai, Kalihi Valley, Honolulu, Oahu, Hawaii, and determining and declaring the necessity of the acquisition by eminent domain.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Chair, may I ask for clarification that we're just moving the resolution as we already adopted the committee report?
Yes, that's correct.
Can we make the?
Okay. Chair, let me amend my motion. So I move that Resolution 23-120 be adopted.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. Resolution 23-120 has been adopted. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Chair, I move that Committee Report 206 and Resolution 23-186 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the explanation.
Chair, this is to retain the legal services of Fukunaga, Mariyoshi Ching, and Con Herrera LLP as special counsel to represent defendant Grant Rebello in the related legal actions entitled The Estate of Dana Okeakua Ko'uluna Kanawai Brown et al. Versus City and County of Honolulu et al. Civil number 121CV00474HG KJM, U.S. District Court.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 206 and Resolution 23-186 has been adopted. Moving to the top of page 19 from the Committee on Zoning, Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that committee report number 211, resolution 23-62, committee draft 1 as amended be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
This is approving a conceptual plan for an interim plan development transit project for the 1538 Kapilani Tower mixed-use development.
Thank you very much. I note that we have 2 registered testifiers. First starting with Nathaniel Kinney, followed by Benjamin Sadowski.
Nathaniel Kinney for the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. We're in support of this project as it will add to the affordable housing stock in the urban core, and appreciate you guys for how much work you guys are putting in today. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Kinney? Seeing none. Next, we have Benjamin Sadowski. Aloha. Mr. Sadowski, welcome. Thank you for waiting patiently all day.
Thank you, Chair and members. We will try not to repeat our previous written testimony much, but I just wanted to say, you know, the developer of this project is also the developer of the Sky Ala Moana project. The Star Advertiser ran an article Sunday about the difficulties the developer is having marketing the units in that project, and that's directly relevant to the 1538 Kapiolani project. In the article, the developer is quoted as saying, "We're working with the city on some rule changes to allow more individuals and families to qualify for these units." We believe the public deserves to know what rule changes are being contemplated. And we have a concern if the developer is not finding themselves able to sell these 290 square foot units where parking costs an extra $38,000, maybe they should discount the units. Instead, it sounds like they're exploring changing the already, in our estimation, far too minimal conditions that they agreed to when they got their permits for Sky Ala Moana 5 years ago. In other words, they're wanting more from the city, and really that turns the question to, should the city in effect subsidize the private developer by absorbing the risks of doing business? Surely other developers will want to know. And I think the public will want to know who gets to decide. Will there be public notice? Will there be a hearing? Will it go before council? Unlike Sky Ala Moana, at 1538 Kapiolani, there is no timeline for when the units have to be finished. For Sky Ala Moana, completion of those units is a precondition for getting a certificate of occupancy. For the condotel units, that was in the permit. And so we would just, you know, say again, we believe that there should be such a condition for the 1538 Kapiolani project, especially since those units are being developed off-site. And I know that there's, you know, if this moves through, there'll be an affordable housing agreement that the city has to come to. So, you know, hopefully that'll be another possibility of a place where they could put it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Mr. Sadowski? Seeing none, thank you. Hi, Jody, please proceed.
Jolie Tokusada with Unite Here Local 5. We feel that relying on private developers to build affordable housing is not working and is not likely to work. This developer has two projects, 1538 Kapiolani and Sky Ala Moana, and that provides example for that. We just want to say that like 1500 Kapiolani, also known as Manaolana Place 2, got its permits in 2017. 68 affordable units to be built by a third party 6 years later. The project has not started, and developers will need city council approval for the extension of time. Hawaii Ocean Plaza and Hawaii City Plaza, those projects were supposed to have 33 affordable units each, approved in 2017 and 2018. The developer closed the existing business and knocked down existing buildings, and nothing has been built yet. Manaolana Place 1, the future Mandarin Oriental, approved in 2016. The developer was supposed to develop or provide 20 affordable housing units or pay $3 million in lieu fee. Not sure of the status of that one, but businesses closed, buildings were demolished, and yet the project itself has not been built. So just wanted to add that to testimony before. Thank you
very much. Members, any questions? Seeing none, please proceed. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Council members, I'm Jeff Masetsugu. I represent 4 labor management cooperation funds. Those are construction unions and their signatory contractors. So those would be the painters union, the drywall tapers, the glazers, and the carpet and soft tile layers. Chair, we've submitted written testimony in strong support of this measure. I don't have anything to add to that. We just like to stand on our written testimony and ask for your support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers? Senator Favela.
You know, at this time, you know, we've been hearing about the housing crisis. And, you know, you guys know I get mixed feelings on certain development and certain projects. But if we don't move projects forward, especially with this kind of mixed-use project, then the only people that's going to suffer is our people. Right now, we have nothing. I'm still waiting for, I told Augie this somewhat, I'm still waiting for West Lock. You know, the city's supposed to have built their affordable homes. They gave the land. Nothing was being done. They didn't build another project on the same property. But if we have the developers willing to step up and they need a little assistance, then I'm for that. Whatever we need to do to try to get the mixed use going. And I just thank you guys for this and thank you guys for your guys' support for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify on this matter? On this side? Seeing none, members are in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you. I wanted to mahalo zoning chair Say for his leadership on this measure. He negotiated an extensive period of affordability and 80% AMI maximums for the 101 rental units, whereas the applicant originally proposed 87 units at 80% AMI for 30 years and 14 units at 100% AMI for 15 years. The current draft before us today would require all 101 units to be 80% AMI for 60 years. And he also prohibits the developer under this measure from applying for city grants for these projects under the city's rental housing program. So I heard from both sides throughout this process, and I concur that it's very challenging to make decisions for these projects, but we do have an objective to increase the number of affordable housing units for the people of the city and county of Honolulu. So I just wanted to mahalo all throughout this process, but in particular zoning chair Say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any further discussion? Councilman Dos Santos Town.
Thank you, Chair. I want to echo Vice Chair Kia Aina's praise for our zoning committee chair for shepherding this through. I also want to acknowledge the testifiers who have been, here through this, and there was a lot of testimony on this project. One point that I think was really important that Jolie from Local 5 just made is, we keep relying on the private sector to deliver affordable housing units, and that is one piece of the puzzle. But I think the city needs to be doing more. I know we put in $170 million in the previous budget. I'm not quite sure how much of that has been spent. We've also been working on a number of other things to help incentivize, the city to take a much bigger role. And I think that's something that I hope my colleagues and I will keep working on. I also want to make one more point about this development is they're doing something very novel, which is taking an office building on Amana Street and converting that into residential. And I think that this is something that's going to happen more often, certainly in my district in downtown. And this is something that we, need to pave the way for, because this is a way to create housing that doesn't create displacement. It helps us deal with our, very soft office market. And this is something that I hope we can work on before the end of the year is coming up with strategies to help incentivize the office to residential conversion.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion, members? I just have one for DPP. Is DPP here? Thank you. If for whatever reason the developer is not able to convert the office building to residential, for whatever reason, if the plumbing isn't able to go in or whatnot, what happens to that requirement of building affordables for rent?
I don't know. I mean, I think we'd have to look at what the options are at that point.
Would we require them to build it someplace else?
I think we could. I think that's an option. Yeah.
What happens if the market rate units are built first and then don't deliver on the affordable units? What is our recourse?
I'm not sure what the exact, I have Jordan, our planner, who can provide what the exact recourse is for this project.
Okay. I'm just hearing things that it's difficult to convert an apartment building to residential.
Right.
So, thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. Jordan Dildy, staff planner in DPP. So if they can't, or let me say it this way, they can't build the market rate units without first providing the affordable units. So the affordable units have to come first.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Members, any follow-up questions? Seeing none, thank you again. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina.
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto.
Aye.
Councilmember Say. Aye. Councilmember Talba. Aye. Councilmember Tupola.
Aye.
Councilmember Wire.
Aye.
Chair Waters.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 8 ayes, 1 member is absent.
Thank you. CR 211 and Resolution 23-62, CD1 has been adopted. Councilmember Say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that Committee Report Number 212 and Resolution 23-132, Committee Draft 1, as amended, be adopted.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam for the second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
It's amending Resolution 19, if members understand. It was adopted in 2019, and it was 225 resolution, Committee Draft 1, to extend the deadline to obtain a building permit for a planned development resort project for the redevelopment of 4.153 acres with mixed-use resort and retail uses in Waikiki, Oahu.
Thank you very much. I note that we have a number of registered testifiers, starting with Cade Watanabe from Unite Here. If not Cade, Mr. Sadowski, would you like to testify?
Sure, thanks. Ben Sadowski with Unite Here Local 5. We'll just stand on our testimony. We've been in support of this extension. We think that the project is good because it's all hotel and replacing an existing hotel. So we're very hopeful about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Rick Agate available, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, we have no remote testifiers logged on.
Oh, okay, next is Nathaniel Kinney, followed by Jeff Masasuku.
Nathaniel Kinney, Hawaii Regional Council of the Carpenters. In the interest of time, we are in support of this project for a lot of the beneficial reasons that it'll have for the area, as well as revitalizing our economy after COVID. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Aloha, welcome again.
Good afternoon again, Chair. Council members, I'm Jeff Masetsugu. Again, I represent the 4 trades, painters, tapers, glazers, and floor layers. We're in strong support of this project. I've submitted written testimony, and we'll just stand on that testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Senator Favello.
Mahalo for that. I'm supporting this resolution. We had a very great WAM tour in Maui, and that's what we're doing right now in one of an old hotel that turned into a missionary school in Kihei, and they're going to make it into a mixed-use facility, meaning for first responders and their families that only have, and it's great. I mean, the concept is great. I think this concept is going to be great, and we got to think of doing more of these here in the Honolulu area, especially the Waikiki area. I put in a petition so that we can condemn Trump Towers, and maybe we can build it into a mixed-use affordable homes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Seeing none, members are in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to commend the developers of this project. You know, as we help to revitalize or renovate some of the older hotels, it's so important for us to have a sense of awareness and to recognize the cultural and historic significance of these sites. So the fact that this hotel's location was once the beginning to the Ainahau property, which was where Princess Ka'iolani lived. And the proponents are also going to include a Princess Ka'iolani Legacy Library. I deeply appreciate it, and I'm hoping that as more developments occur in the Waikiki area, that they don't forget the importance of this place for the Native Hawaiian people prior to westernization. Mahalo.
Thank you. Councilmember Tupola.
In support, just wanted to also thank the developer and the presenters, because specifically with the community benefits package, I thought that it was something above and beyond. Everything that they shared, I believe, surpassed what the council was asking and showed that they truly have tried to integrate their whole design into the community and into the culture of this place that we call home. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 212 and Resolution 23-132 CD1 has been adopted. Now to the top of page 20, council members say.
Mr. Chair, I move that committee report number 213, resolution 23-140, committee draft 1 as amended be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Council members say for the explanation.
It's granting a special management area use permit to allow repairs and addition to an existing single-family detached dwelling and related site improvements at 1508 Mokulua Drive in Lanikai.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have no registered testifiers.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to testify? Seeing none, members who are in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you so much, Chair. I wanted to note for the record that there have been a few concerns raised by neighbors regarding this particular development. So I appreciate that the applicant's presentation and DPP's response to my questions at the zoning committee provided clarity on the scope of this SMA application versus the applicant's existing SMA permit and clarity on the proposed footprint and new floor area. So DPP, if you could step forward. I wanted to confirm my understanding about a couple of things that I previously mentioned, but I just need this for the record. That the applicant already has an SMA for repair work to the main property in addition to the guest quarters, that the footprint expansion is only related to enclosing an existing paved courtyard that already exists and connects the property's two wings, that the floor area increase is a result of the enclosure of the courtyard as well as additions for the second floor, the latter which will not increase the footprint. And lastly, that no new development will occur within the shoreline setback. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I also understand that DPP agrees that including a condition related to a private agreement between the Lanikai Association and the applicant may not be appropriate, but that the applicant is nevertheless working on a private MOU or Memorandum of Understanding with the Lanikai Association. Is that also correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions, members? Seeing none, any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Aye. Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 213 and Resolution 23-140 CD1 has been adopted. Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that committee report number 214 and resolution 23-160, committee draft 1 as amended be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
Authorizing exemptions from certain requirements relating to the Hale Mo'iliili Affordable Rental Project for Native Hawaiians in Mo'iliili, Oahu.
Thank you very much. I do note that we have one registered testifier, Nathaniel Kinney. I do want to note the presence of the director of DHHL who was here earlier, but he couldn't stay, in strong support of the measure. Mr. Kinney.
Yes, Nathaniel Kinney for the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. This project is completely worthwhile, and I do know, I spoke to Kali Watson earlier, he actually did want to be here to give a presentation. I mean, it is first of its kind vertical development for DHHL beneficiaries, but we're in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Senator Favela.
All right, thank you. So you guys know, if you guys ever watched the news, me and Kali was head to head, but I like this project. We have to do something for our people and move ahead, something different. We have to think outside of the box. And I'm glad that, you know, everything that we had worked through at the state level, that we're working with DHHL to move forward in trying to think outside the box. And, you know, my hat's out to him. Yeah, he was here earlier. I seen him. He really wanted to testify. But I'm here in support of this project, and I think it's going to be great for our people. So thank you guys for your guys' support.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and City Council. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES in support of the Hawaiians. So in January of 2023, in the beginning of this year, the hearing at the Senate and House Housing Committee, led by the Senate and House Housing Chairs, was a discussion about the housing priorities for the state. And outlining the discussion of the state is critical to enhancing an integrated housing plan for the state's most critical collaborators, the counties. Housing is needed. In a 2019 study conducted by HHFDC, the results showed that Hawaii will need 50,000 housing units between 2020 and 2025. Most of the units are for 140% AMI a year. Governor Ige claims that we have produced 13,500 units in the past 8 years. And the House majority is committed to affordable housing. It continues to support funding for affordable rental. And although there are a lot of discussion about housing and the various projects, we don't hear a lot about DHHL Hawaiian housing, like the one that we are discussing here today, the resolution 23-1600.
Can you wrap up your testimony, please?
I support it. And because of the recent discussion about Act 207, the appropriation for $600 million for Hawaiians and the proposals for that, I also support that, and also this resolution because it supports the Native Hawaiians. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Seeing none, members who are in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina, followed by Say.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I fully support this project that will further the state of Hawaii's trust obligations to Hawaiian homeland beneficiaries, and I'm excited that the city will play a small role in this project as we have important kuleana as well. Mahalo to Stanford Carr for this project, for planning this project, and for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands for moving this project forward. I will say this to state and city agencies that have lands that are suitable for Hawaiian homeland beneficiaries. The state and city governments use Hawaiian homelands either for no money or for pittance. And I would like to think that this type of project could be replicated on public lands because you are using Hawaiian homelands, and those lands are clearly off the tables for our Hawaiian homeland beneficiaries. So why don't you help the Department of Hawaiian Homelands by identifying properties where they could continue to do projects like this, whether it be for rental or for long-term homestead leasing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Say.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This particular project, I'm in support, is in the district that I do represent. But more importantly, to give the members and the general public a historical perspective as far as this particular property was part of the overall state settlement with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. The journey starts maybe 15 to 20 years ago, and it's now bearing its fruit. That's why sometimes when I reflect about how state and county government operates, we're very, very slow. We could have got people in those units 10, 20 years ago maybe. But the point of the matter is that I'm very happy that the developer, along with the landowner, which is Department of Hawaiian Homelands, has worked out this project for the betterment of our Native Hawaiian lessees. So in closing, Mr. Chair, may I submit a correspondence from the State Attorney General? And this is for our record and for the record of our Department of Planning and Permitting, that the director has the authority to grant the general excise tax exemptions. And if you don't mind, may I just read the summary of it, very simply put? Based on the above, a county has the authority to certify a GET exemption without further action by HHFDC. HHFDC, for the general public, is the Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation. And for the City and County of Honolulu, specifically application for GET exemption certification must be submitted to and approved by the Department of Planning and Permitting, not the City Council. We conducted our review of Honolulu's ordinances and rules during the short time allowed by your request. We will therefore revise our response to address any city authorities that may become known as to us as appropriate. Thank you very much. This is for the record.
Thank you, Chair Say. Members, do you understand what he just said? Basically, in the 201H projects, the Director of Department of Planning and Permitting can waive GET requirement, the general excise tax.
And that will help, excuse me, may I be recognized?
Yes, please, Councilmember
That will
Say.
help to lower the cost of the overall development for our future affordable renters.
Okay, so we don't need to send it back to committee to do that. We can just ask the director to do it. Okay, I see Stanford Carr here. Does anybody have any questions for the developer as well? Thank you for being here as well. If there's no other discussion, members, any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba? Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 214 and Resolution 23-160 CD1 has been adopted. Now to the top of page 21. From the Committee on Parks, Enterprise Services, and Culture and the Arts, Councilmember Tolba.
I move that committee report 215 and resolution 23-130 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Accepting the gift of $5,000 to the city of from the Friends of Hawaii Charities for the upkeep and maintenance of Kahala Community Park.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have no testifiers.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that'd like to testify? Seeing none, members, we're in discussion. Noting no discussion, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations to CR 215 and Resolution 23-130 has been adopted. Councilmember Tolba.
I move the committee report 221 and resolution 23-176 CD1 as amended be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Accepting the gift of an interpretive sign valued at $1,638 to the city from Hiku Haunana for Kamanele Square.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have no registered testifiers.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that would like to testify on this matter? Seeing none, members are in discussion. Noting no discussion, any objection or reservations? Noting no objection or reservations, CR 221 and Resolution 23-176 CD1 has been adopted. Members, moving to the top of page 22, Councilmember Tolba.
I move that committee report 216 and resolution 23-134 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Authorizing the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services or the Director Designee to enter into a concession agreement for a term up to 10 years to provide food and beverage retail and ticketing concession services at the Honolulu Zoo managed by the Department of Enterprise Services.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have no registered testifiers.
Okay. Is there anybody who would like to testify from the audience? Seeing none, members, I do note the presence of the Director Designee for Enterprise Services as well as the Deputy, if anyone has any questions. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba? Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 8 ayes, 1 member is absent.
Thank you. CR 216 and Resolution 23-134 has been adopted. On the bottom of page 22 from the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. I move that Committee Report 227, Resolution 23-174, CD1 as amended be adopted, accepting a gift of tuition, travel, and related expenses to the city from the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, valued at $2,160 for a supervising driver license examiner, the Department of Customer Services to attend the commercial driver's license train the trainer class in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kiana for the second.
Second.
Second, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have no registered testifiers.
Okay, is there anybody from the audience who'd like to testify on this matter? Seeing none, members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 227 and Resolution 23-174, CD1 has been adopted. Now to the top of page 23, Councilmember Wire.
Follow Chair, I move that Committee Report 225, Resolution 23-167 be adopted, urging the city administration to provide hazard or premium pay to eligible independent contractors and eligible employees of firms contracted by the city who performed essential and hazardous work during the COVID-19 public health emergency.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I believe we do have a number of registered testifiers, starting with Cody Sula. Thank you very much for being patient and waiting. Good afternoon.
Good morning and good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the council. Thank you guys so much for being here and allowing me to testify. My name is Cody Sewell. I'm the former Government Affairs Liaison of Teamsters 996. I just want to clarify today, I am coming to you as an individual, as a bus operator. And I just think that this bill or this resolution is long overdue. It was introduced a few years back where it was tabled almost immediately. There was a lot of pushback from the administration because it was during the pandemic. And the frustrating thing was a lot of the money for this came from the CARES Act, which was supposed to be to help essential workers provide hazard pay and other necessities that they needed. So the time when we really needed it, and the members really needed it, providing service on the streets, the handy van operators picking up people, still taking them to their appointments, and just all the challenges that they face, whether it was, let's put a mask on, we need more protection, let's put a shower curtain up, we need social distancing, let's put tape on the floor. With all of that, the bus operators and the handy van operators, it caused them a lot of anxiety. A lot of them, you're gonna hear some stories, but a lot of them, they wouldn't go home. They have to change their clothes before they go home. They would sleep at somebody else's house because they were exposed to the public and they had at-risk family members. And when it was needed, it was just tabled. And so I'm happy that it's been reintroduced, but I think it's long overdue, and I thank you guys for your support because the bus operators and the handy van operators, really, they're one of the overlooked people as essential workers. A lot of people recognize the police, the healthcare workers, EMS, and that's fine, they should be. The only time they recognize the bus operators and handy van operators is when they're in front of you, right? People trying to get in front of the bus. So it's time that they were allowed to finally be recognized for the work that they did, because the only other time that they're recognized is if the bus or the handy van is late. All right, so They kept the city working throughout the time. People needed to get groceries, people needed to get to doctor's appointments, dialysis, you name it. The bus operators and the handy van operators were always there to provide the service. I just ask that you guys please be there for them today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Joel Hassi.
Aloha mai kako. I come to you as an individual who worked for the bus during COVID and also now who is the Secretary Treasurer of Hawaii Teamsters Local 996. One of the things that I first noticed when I walked in here is that emblem that as bus operators and anybody employed at OTS wears is our badge with that symbol, and we wear it proudly. The things that they had to endure in the front lines can't be felt by just an individual that went through COVID. When you're actually having to provide service during that time for essential workers, not only the nurses, we at Local 996 oversee nurses that, at Kapiolani, we have also people that work at Queens. If you look at any of the bus stops early in the morning and in the afternoon, all of these transported, most of them coming off of the bus. You'll see a congregation of them who still had to endure COVID as well. But as they rode with our operators through this time, many of them are my age, so we're caretakers as well. Caretaking their families when they get home, having to make other arrangements because they couldn't burden the fact of going home and maybe having somebody contract COVID. Not knowing every day whether you were catching it or not, people have to endure that innate sense of vulnerability. And that in itself is such a toll. They are so deserving, and as Cody Sula said, they took care of us in the hardest times, and if we can find a way to take care of them. Mahalo.
Thank you. That's all I have as registered, but I know there's much more of you are here, so I'd like to give you all an opportunity to testify. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Aloha, thank you for waiting.
I represent, my name is Kenneth Lowe, and first of all, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and City Council members. I've been employed at the bus company for 44 years, and we've never endured what we've done this past COVID situations that we had. But let me just say, first of all, we all get labeled as essential workers. So that comes from police, the city core product that we do provide the service for. We all stand together. But I'm here to give you one example of what I've had to go through. I did trouble calls for the city bus, so I did anything and everything. I was like the ambulance for the city bus, transmissions, inside work in the bus, and I did it for 35 years. I was called to a trouble call, and the person that was on the bus was sick. They claimed they had COVID, and so they had to bring the ambulance out and transport them. But I'm the guy got to drive the bus back. So I'm suited up. I'm got my uniform on. I'm with my face shield, everything, just to protect myself, and knowing I still got it. So we put ourselves on the line. I can only imagine what these drivers are going through, not being as protected as I am. And so I commend them also for what they've done. But I just wanted to be known that it was prevalent and it was out there, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whew. Yeah, my name is Richard Parmenter. I'm an employee at Oahu Transit Services. I'm about ready to cry because of what I'm hearing. The support. Anyway, thank you, Chair Waters, Vice Chair, and council members. I'm 68 years old. I've been in the industry for 42 years, and I've never gone through anything like this. I wrote something, but I'm not even going to read it. It was difficult each and every day. When it first came out, there was no masks. So you were dealing with buses that were packed to the front. There was no social distancing. When the mandate came in for masks, we had to enforce it. Didn't mean that we were going to literally make them put it on, but it caused an issue to where the customer would spit on us, get violent. We are essential workers. We were frontline workers. We went through the whole thing, worried about catching it ourselves and worried about bringing it home to our families. I couldn't see my grandsons. I love what I do, and we're second to none. OTS. We were trained fully. We were also trained if there's a disaster, we're put out there to help those that need help. We deserve the hazard pay. We were pushed aside, and now we need your help, and I appreciate it. 250-pound guy, 6'3", crying. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Lori Takahashi, and I've been with OTS for over 27 years. In 2016, I was asked by my mother if I would move home. My father is 88, and he fell several times. And the worst one was when he had a cut behind his head and needed staples. In 1992, he needed a bypass, and then he needed a valve replacement several years after that. And during the COVID pandemic, I was terrified and stressed out just like everybody else was. I was afraid that I might get it from one of my passengers and bring it home to my parents. My mother has diabetes, and she has a stent as well. Being that they're elderly and they have all of these health issues, that made me more afraid. On January 2nd, 2021, after getting both both Moderna shots, and then both booster shots after that, I still got COVID from one of my passengers. Every day from the onset of the pandemic, I would change my clothes and shower and everything outside. When I got COVID, I slept in the garage because I had to take care of my parents and make sure that they didn't get it. My daughter, I had written a testimony online, but my daughter lives in Vegas. Aside from worrying about my parents and me bringing it home, I had to worry about them. My daughter was giving birth during the pandemic. And then it turned out that they didn't have food. My son-in-law couldn't find food. Everybody just bought everything off the shelves that they could find. So aside from worrying about me getting it, and I got it, and giving it to my parents, I had to worry about my daughter, my new grandson, and my son-in-law. So today, I continue to sanitize my bus. You can ask everybody. I go to work like 2.5 hours early just to clean and sanitize my bus, because it's still out there, and I don't want to get it, and I don't want to bring it home to my parents. So both Handy Van and the bus, we were needed. As much as we all wanted to stay home, we couldn't, because we knew the public needed us. We knew that the people, the traveling nurses and doctors that came in, that they needed to get to the hospitals. They were requested, they came, they knew the risks, but they still came. And we knew the risks when we signed up for this, that someday something like this might happen, and it did. So with that handy van, they needed to transport their patients, because I know a few patients, because they cashed my bus, that they needed dialysis and a couple of them needed chemo. So regarding the hazard pay, I really appreciate you starting this and you bringing it up for us. I just want everybody to know that we were all afraid, just like all of you. You got to stay home. We had to go out there and work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha Council. My name is Desiree Kalama Kiliikuli, and I've been an OTS bus operator for 12 years. When COVID-19 hit, it was honestly scary. There was limited information about the virus, how it was spread, how you could protect yourself and your family, and the information was constantly changing. The only advice the public got to say was stay home. Stay home how? The bus is the main lifeline for people across Oahu, which includes frontline workers. So day after day, for over a year, we did what we needed to do to ensure Oahu could still function. People could get to their jobs, people could get their medicines and their essentials. Work days were on average over 8 hours, so we do our work while exposing ourselves to the elements to a virus that had already killed multiple people in my family alone. Then come home to see the news account of how many people died, how we're short on ventilators. This virus has reshaped our daily lives and still affect us to this day. As scary as it was, we all still woke up every morning and continued to do our job. So today I stand before you in favor of Measure 23167. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Councilman, Chairman. My name is Jonathan Johnson. I am here to give my testimony to support resolutions 23167. I've been a bus operator for Oahu Transit Services for 16 years. In the summer of 2007, the Board of Directors and executive staff adopted Oahu Transit Services mission statement. We are responsible to the city of and county of Honolulu to provide safe, accessible, efficient, and dependable public transportation driven by the Aloha spirit. And that's exactly what I and my brother and sisters have done regardless of the circumstances. When the pandemic was first declared by Mayor Caldwell in March of 2020, we did not refuse work or did not refuse to work. We did not refuse to service the passengers, the bulk being the most vulnerable member of the community, and we did not put our own fears ahead of the needs of essential service we provide. In the early days of the pandemic, there were not social distancing protocols, passenger count restrictions, or sufficient protections for the operators. We spent an average drive time of 8 hours behind the wheel in a confined space with ideal conditions for virtual transmission, praying that we wouldn't be affected by anyone. We were fearful that every passenger we picked up may be infected because there was none of them wore a neon sign telling us otherwise. We are in a bus with passengers coughing, clearing their throats, spitting into napkins or hankies. We were terrified that doing our job would cost us our lives. When you cast your vote, I would ask you to remember we sacrificed, stepped up, showed up for people of the city and county of Honolulu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and Councilman. Thank you again for the opportunity to come before you guys and speak about the hazard or premium pay for city contracted workers. Last time I was here and I was able to speak, I spoke about how it affected me and not being able to see my mom during her cancer treatments. And We're gonna stay away from that one right now. Don't want to go back that way. But like our fellow brother Cody said, we had shower curtains to protect us that didn't do anything because the curtains here are fare boxes here, and when they come in to put in money, they're talking directly to us, right? As CDC wrote out different guidelines and the mask came up, people would come on with their mask. As soon as they pass us, take it off, which only would be more of an issue with us, right? We pull over how many times? Hey, you got to put your mask on. They put it on. We continue. 2 minutes later, look in the mirror, it's off. In the back, coughing. One thing I am grateful for is that thank you guys. I know this. You guys opened up the Hotels for Heroes for us, and greatly appreciate it. That shows that we were looked as essential workers and top of the line for hazard, right? You guys also, when the vaccine finally rolled out, we were in group 1, able to go right away. So again, for that, I want to thank you guys because that made a big difference in how we felt and feeling safe in our working environment. And that's all I need to say today, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Real quick, just want to say aloha to everybody. It's the first time I'm in a situation like this, so I'm not very formal, but it's cool to see everybody on TV in front of me. It's really cool. I just want to say real quick, I've been a bus operator for 9 years, and I have an elderly mom at home. She's 73, so during the time of the pandemic, it was very tough going to work and going home because I was afraid of possibly bringing something home to my mom. And at the same time, have my bills to pay and want to help support her. So that constant fight was very difficult, but obviously I chose to go to work. And thankfully, nothing happened to my mom. Nothing was able to come home. But also I did catch COVID. So I had to not live at home for a number of weeks because I had to protect my mom. My mom is 73 years old. Okay. So looking at that, it helped me really put everything aside. And even though I put her at risk, I still had to go to work every day to pay my part of the bills and make sure my house is still running the way it was. So not to take out too much of your time, but I just want to say thank you guys for your support for this, because us bus operators, we do have a lot going on, and having to bring stuff home, we don't want to do that. So if you guys can just support us with this, it'll mean very much to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha, guys. My name is Chris Rhodes. I've been an operator for over 17 years. I was an operator during the pandemic, and it was a really rough phase for each and every one of us. I had 2 little girls, 5 and 8 at the time, and it was really hard to go to work every day because they kept crying and telling me, "Daddy, don't go." But I said, I gotta do my part to save the world. The people gotta go out. I gotta take the nurses and doctors to the hospital to save the other people. Imagine putting 30 people in a bathroom, closing the door, and sitting there for 8 hours, not knowing if any one of those 30 people are sick. We had to do that on a daily basis. We never knew what we expected coming through that door every stop. We sacrificed a lot, our safeties, our family's safeties, our neighbors' safeties. Anybody we came in contact as an operator, we sacrificed and jeopardized everybody else's safety. We gave so much back during this COVID. Imagine the operators decided not to show up to work, the city would have froze. A lot more people would have died. But we stood up, we rose up and accepted the challenge. So I'm asking you guys, I'm humbly asking you guys to consider this. And I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Kim Souza. I'm an operator for OTS for 16 years. During the pandemic, I put myself at risk. I have asthma. Dealing with the public, I had to go to work. No one to pay my bills. Putting my health, my parents' health, my nephew's health at risk to do the job that pays me to pay my bills. And we get the public Some of them appreciated that we was there. Some gave us trouble. And then we deal with that every day till this day. And we just deal with it. But at the same time, like EMS, firefighters, HPD, we have friends that have HPD, they put their life. So we put our life too. And we lost coworkers because of COVID. Ones that were friends to all of us here. But today we still go and do the job. And all we do is humbly ask. We essential just as everybody else. Give us something to show us our appreciation for being operators. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Philip Butai. I currently work for the bus as a transit supervisor and a training instructor. When COVID-19 started, like most people, like most people, was consumed with fear due to the unknown. Government businesses shutdowns compounded those fears. For first responders, it was business as usual. We here at OTS continued in operation despite the shutdowns, performing our mission statement to provide safe, accessible, dependable public transportation driven by the spirit of aloha. When government and business services resumed, albeit limited for the safety of their workers, they gave their workers the options to work from home remotely. For us here at OTS, we were never given that option. During the pandemic, the bus handyman were called upon by the city and county of Honolulu to assist, monitor, and evacuate people to evacuation areas. Again, working side by side with first responders. Responding to incidents, accidents involving the bus, operators and I worked side by side with first responders. As a road supervisor, for the bus, I witnessed and investigated incidents involving the bus operators on a daily basis. The pandemic made it more difficult. I witnessed a lot of the things that they say. Due to confidentiality, I cannot discuss those. It was hard for the bus operators and handy van operators. I'm a road supervisor. I might not get this hazard pay. I'm okay with that. But for city bus operators and handy van operators, that would be sad on your part if you deny them that hazard pay. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tavesi Awgafa. As a paratransit operator for 27 years, I serve a crucial role in assisting individuals with mobility challenges, providing them with the transportation services that are vital to their daily lives. While I find immense fulfillment in serving my community, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has made me increasingly aware of my potential risks associated with my work. I come to work every day to put food on my table. I was blessed that I never get COVID. I work in the union now as a Teamster. Me catching COVID and giving it to my family members in the office killed me. It really hurt because I knew I was the one. You know, as an operator, I come to work every day, you know, and get this. I just hope that you guys pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and Council men and women. My name is Felipe Anguiano. I'm here to support Bill 23-167, and I come to you as not only as a business agent for the 1,700 members from OTS, but also because I deal with other members who deal with the healthcare, as somebody else and other people stated. As a veteran myself, I handle a company who does the cleaning for the VA hospitals, Tripler and Schofield. That being said, majority of our housekeepers all catch the bus. So it's very important for them to keep the hospitals clean because that's the only two VA hospitals that we have. Just the transportation alone is very important to keep the city going. Also the support staff, not just the operators, but the support staff, because it trickles all the way down. Without the buses on the road, we wouldn't have the operators. So I just want to thank everybody for their support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the council. My name is Kevin Holu, President and Principal Officer of Hawaii Teamsters Local 996, as well as a bus operator during COVID-19. I'm wearing two hats today. As a concerned union leader, I am a firm advocate for compensation for the frontline workers for the risks they endured during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a rank and file bus operator, I can speak firsthand about what I endured. When my worst nightmare was lived out in 2021, I caught COVID. I spent about 3 weeks in the hospital needing 70 liters of oxygen just to survive. A few days later, I awoke only to find out my wife was in the next room dealing with the same issue. As I laid there, all I could think about was my son, my 10-year-old son, not knowing if his parents will make it out to come home. It was hard to deal with that at that time, just that whole incident. At that time, before catching COVID, I also was a caregiver for my parents. My mom, who was currently going through cancer treatments, getting breast cancer, going through cancer treatments, and when I caught COVID, there was no one there to take her to her treatments. But by the grace of God, because that's where my heart lies on, by the grace of God, He delivered us from those things. Today, I stand here and I ask and humbly ask, during that COVID times, we, city bus operators, paratransit operators, over 1,700 members of the entire Oahu Transit Services, we showed up. We showed up and we showed out. Now we're asking this time if the city can recognize that efforts that we gave to consider passing and adopting this bill, Resolution 23-167. I thank you for your time, and on behalf of the rest of us in the city bus and the Hawaii Teamsters, we thank you all for your hard work as well. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I know you sat through a long hearing and appreciate that. That's just more testimony to your endurance and willingness to work hard. Go ahead, Angela.
Thank you. Angela Melody Young, testifying in support of the bus drivers who are third-party contractors. But whether you are a direct employee from the city or independent contractor, you represent the city when you drive the bus around, so you should get your money for the safe and accessible transportation that y'all have provided. So hazard pay means additional pay for performing hazardous duty or work involving physical hardship. Work duty that causes extreme physical discomfort and distress, which is not adequately alleviated by protective devices, is deemed to impose a physical hardship. The Fair Labor Standards Act does not address the subject of hazard pay, except to require that it be included as part of a federal employee's regular rate of pay in computing the employee's overtime pay. money from the CARES Act was to provide for these contractors, and they continue to perform his or her duties during the public health emergency to deliver resources to the community. So whether it's HPD, fire department, or the bus, they should get their hazard pay. And CARES is in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, technology. Thank you, Chair and council members. I'm highly in support of this resolution. I used to work for the City Refuse Department, Environmental Services. The operators of the bus for handy van and the bus is the first responders. They always have been. Only during the pandemic, I realized that they wasn't being compensated. Talked to my brothers and sisters that drive the bus. I was kind of concerned. This came up before on both sides, not only here, but in the state. But bringing this back and having this come before is something great, because when we need them, especially during COVID, we have them. During a hurricane, a natural disaster, you guys don't think about it, but they're the ones that leave their homes, their families, to go out there and rescue people on the beach, especially from the west side. This is an automatic for our city council and our communities to recognize them as first-line responders, first-line workers. And, you know, I listened to them, Chair, council members, heartfelt testimony. Every single one of them brought me to tears. But why do they have to come before the council? And I don't like to use the word beg, but plead, to understand what them and their families went through in the time of the pandemic. I didn't have to go out and work. I was blessed in the fact that I stayed home. But they didn't have that option. They didn't have that privilege that we had. So again, I urge you guys to support this resolution. Thank you guys for bringing it up. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys a lot. Take care.
Anybody else wishing to testify? No. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. I really want to mahalo everyone who came out today, and especially all the people who even tried to push for it, even in the height of the pandemic. I know that this has been tried before when we didn't even know about the federal funding and the regulations of such federal funding. But now is the time to support them, and we have always supported them. I do want to also mahalo because there's strong support from the union as well. I mean, not only, so as a staffer at the council, I knew, and OTS was in my current